Before we introduce this episode, if you follow me on Instagram and have been keeping up with the updates with this podcast, you would know that we were able to build a nice set, a place where every podcast will be filmed. And this was thanks to the generous offer of a room in an advertising agency here in Dallas called Recreation Dallas. So I want to give them a quick shout out and a huge thank you to Rob Howe, who is one of the owners here and will actually be on the podcast very soon. It's going to be awesome. They didn't have to do this. They didn't ask me to plug them. They didn't ask for anything. They just were friends. We worked together and they were just nice enough to let me use the space. So again, a quick thank you. Now, a disclaimer. Because of the new set, it came with new challenges, new production things that, take place. And if you're watching the video version, the last few minutes, one of the SD cards for the camera that was on me actually went out. So I want to apologize. And when you get there, just letting you know. If you're listening on Spotify, don't even worry about it. It got nothing to do with you. But yeah, enjoy this episode. On this episode of Hustle Culture, we talk to none other than Leonardo Saint. Now, if you don't know who this amazing individual is, he's a graphic design, photography, sound engineer, just a creative legend. If you've seen his Instagram feed, he's iconic. He's known for his grid. He also works at an agency called 52 Dallas, where they do video work and graphic design work for clients and influencers and a bunch of other people. In this episode, we dive into alternate ways of learning. We talk about dealing with imposter syndrome, and we talk about how social media has impacted the way culture works. And there's way more. I can't wait for you guys to listen to this, but I hope you get at least a fraction of the value that I got while talking to Leo from listening to this podcast. Enjoy.
So what are you? I don't know. I'm a creative. I do creative things. Every person I think is creative. It's something that's our essence. If you're not for me, you're against me, which is not the case.
Welcome back to the Hustle Culture podcast. I'm here with none other than creative director, just leader of innovation, self-proclaimed and publicly acknowledged. It's Leo right here on set with us.
Glad to be here, man.
Dude,
on the new set. I'm loving it.
Thank you. Let me just give a little intro before we get into it. Yeah, this is the new set. I know y'all can't see it with our shots, but if I wasn't lazy and I actually did a B-roll sequence, y'all would have seen it in the intro. So
hopefully we get those B-rolls.
Hopefully.
We get it in,
I'd like to say that I'm gonna do that when you leave.
Yeah, future. Let's hope that future Andres does it, but we don't know.
Exactly. I don't like to just assume things. We knock on wood here, everything. You never know. But dude, I'm excited to talk to you, man. I feel like our circles coincide a lot,
intertwine a lot.
Yeah.
Robson was in this weekend, and I was like, oh, Robson.
Yep.
And then I saw him at Post Up, and I was like, oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Rob is the man, and people like Rob and the whole scene here. I feel like I go to your page, or when I first heard of you, it was because of Rob. He was like, bro, dope creative guy. You're a dope creative guy. Y'all should link. And I was like, I just go to your page, and then I see, first of all, if you're clicking on this video, you're probably a part of Leo's audience. But if you haven't seen his Instagram, bro, your graphic design work is redonkulous. I don't understand even how, I've tried doing the grid thing, and I just can't wrap my head around it. So we're going to go into that because I have a question, but I just want to acknowledge that and even put a little plug here for your Instagram because it's worth it. It really is a visual masterpiece. But man, I really want to just get into your story because we briefly talked about it before. You don't really have a specific thing that you do.
Yeah.
You do a lot of everything.
Yeah,
so,
it's a little bit of everything,
Yeah. So talk to us. Let us know. How did Leo get into creative and how did that start?
Yeah. It's an interesting path, right? So growing up in church, I'm not sure how you were used or not used in church or how your background is, but
I was.
I see church as a great thing in a lot of ways.
Right.
And this can be good or bad depending on how people look at it, but you are used in good ways and bad. But if there is a need or there's something to be filled, you're put in that position. And I was a nerd growing up. And being a nerd, I knew a little bit of technology. I knew a little bit of electricity, sound, and I got put on the soundboard, and then from the soundboard, lights, and then from lights, I was managing the back of house mostly at my church, and then going from there to there, went from video to photography to the live stream to everything creative in the church, to the peak where I was creative director for a church and creating everything from graphics to looking at other people's work and teaching young kids or people, members in the church, how to do it as well in their specific departments or areas. And then left, really focused on the church, and went into more practical use to make money. Because as much as I loved helping the church and there were paid positions that were available, most of it was volunteer work, and putting in 40 hours, 50 hours at work, 40 hours, 50 hours at church takes a toll.
Right.
And I am, as I mentioned, I had to have my ring on for the podcast, happily married.
Right. Let's go.
And you can't be
all the females,
yes.
I need y'all to get out of my comments, all right? I understand he's an attractive man, but he's got a wife, all right? Let him go.
But shout out to my wife, especially because she's endured so much with the creative process, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
You know how it is. But I can't divide 80 hours of work with church and that and my wife. So I said, how can I mix the best way possible that there's some type of return on my investment, and still, participate in church and still do what I love with that church side, but still stay true to my creative side and make something out of it. So learned that stuff. And that's why I said, there's a little bit of everything. I mean, you want to do graphics? I got you. You got to do video? I'm all right. I don't say I'm the best at anything. There are certain areas that I think I do well in. But there's no area that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the guy. Maybe the whole grid thing, I'm your guy. That's pretty much where I found my niche in, is like Instagram grids. Yeah, I got that.
Nice, dude. That's awesome, man. I can 150% relate to your story. I'm same way. I mean, I didn't pick up a camera. I was like you, the nerdy kid, like legit. I played baseball, but like got home from practice and it was like Call of Duty. We're just gonna game all day. Like that was my thing.
Do you still game?
Off and on. Yeah. What do you play right now?
I have a friend, shout out Atlas, who I help do creative stuff for him, and he's a dope friend. Been known him for like 12 years now, and he games like crazy. So I've played Apex with him.
Oh, nice.
And
Apex is fire.
More frequently. So he'll message me like, hop on the stream with me. I'm like, all right, cool. I suck. I'm not really good. Like, I'm gonna be honest. That's not my niche at all. Like,
yeah.
I do it for the content and for the enjoyment of playing with them. But I played a lot of PUBG. Like during COVID, I played a lot of games like Fortnite and stuff. Same. I didn't get into them as much, but I have them. So I have Apex, Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, bro, that
that one's fun. Yeah. Just like graphically and just visually it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then God of War also. I had to play
classic.
that. I can't say I'm Brazilian enough to play FIFA. Like I'm Brazilian, but no FIFA. It's basically that. And then there's the other one with the cars. The car. It's like soccer meets cars.
Oh, Rocket League.
That one I played with him and
fun.
actually did pretty well in, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Because then I get my Brazilian side out. I play a little bit of soccer. I get my as a kid, I would always play like car games with my dad growing up. We had like back in the day when you had PS2, but you got the whole setup.
Oh yeah,
we had the steering wheel and everything.
I remember.
So I was like, man, I'm mixing both worlds.
Yeah.
So I got into that a bit. It's just the simpler the game, the easier for me. When you get extra things like Fortnite, you have to build and you have to shoot. Too much. I'm like, that's too much going on. Like it's either shooting or building. Don't give me like 15
Call of Duty
like,
or Minecraft.
Don't make them together.
Yeah.
Rocket League was just enough where I'm like, I'm still driving and it's two things, but it's simple enough where it's like there's not this crazy convoluted idea.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel you though, but yeah, man. So I was gaming. I was a nerdy kid. So I've told this story before, so I'll keep it brief. But yeah, I got in my church. That's how I picked up a camera for the first time. My whole family was getting involved, so I was like, okay, I'll join the live production team. I did sound in the chapel, which was like the traditional service for like the older folks, and I was like, that was fun because I would get yelled at all the time. It's too loud, and I'm like, not really turning it down, but I'm like making the motion. And so I feel you, and I think that's a kind of a struggle, right? That I'm sure you faced, that I faced. It's like when you're, there's a term, and it messed with my head forever, and it's one of those mindset things that I think about a lot. But it was like, when you're a jack of all trades but a master of none, it kind of makes you like, I don't know if you fell into this, but I definitely have, where it's like, I kind of wish I did find my thing and just kind of went ham. Do you ever think about that? Like
100%.
Yeah.
It's literally, it literally consumes me consumed me at one point where I was like, man, I really suck.
Mm,
I'm not good at anything.
bro.
I'm all right in a lot of things. And I don't think what I put out is bad, but I'm not a master at any of these things that I do.
Yeah.
It's all very selective, very surface area and surface level like knowledge.
Right.
So I could hold a conversation really well. But once we get into some depth, or if I were to compare, which is terrible in the creative world, trying to compare with people,
Yeah.
I look at other people, I'm like, damn, I can't do that. I can't film like that. That transition was wild. I want to do that. Well, it's not my thing. So it was tough to try to find that. And then everywhere you go, like on TikTok, for example, everyone's like, find your niche.
Yeah.
Find your niche.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I like so much. Like how either I have to create like 15 accounts for each thing I like.
Right.
Because I want to post about cameras, but also I want to post about my cat, or I want to post about like, I'm really into my plants as well. So it's tough because it's like, I felt like I was just giving up on things, but it's not like I was giving up. It was just that my interest now switched to a different thing that I want to focus on and get good at that too.
Right.
So it's a tough thing. And I get like the imposter syndrome a lot where I'm like,
it's real.
am I really a creative? Am I really good at this? Because like you got like people who are photographers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have people who are videographers or graphic designers or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I've done all of those. So what are you? I don't know. I'm a creative.
Yeah.
Like I do creative things. I like creative work. Like you have t-shirt designs? I'll
got
hop
you.
on that. Like
Yeah.
you want to do a flyer? I got you. You want to do photos? I wouldn't nominate myself to be the first pick, but I'll do it. And I know it will come out as good quality, but I know there's someone probably that's mastered their craft a little bit better,
Right.
that might have an expertise in that area better. And then I feel like, man, maybe I should just find people who do these things better and not be the person doing them, right? So it's a tough road to walk, but I found comfort in knowing like I'm just here to look at things. I'm like, why don't you try this? That's why I feel like I learned all those things.
Right.
So in like more of a director position or a leadership position, I can look at things and say, hey, I don't know how to fully do what you do, but I can motivate you and I can direct you to make what you're doing in a better way and to match unison. I really like seeing like what you're doing right now. Shout out to you. I mean, I know you give shout outs to all your guests, but seeing the unison between typography to the video work to subtitling to color coding to having the consistent song in the background. Like a lot of people don't have that or have that vision for that. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to throw red today. I'm going to use green tomorrow. I'm going to use yellow today. But having consistency along the brand, along the church, along the company, love seeing that. And you can only do that when you're in a position to know a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
And just nitpick, oh, this doesn't match our brand identity. Change that. I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to tell you what to change on it.
That's real. And first of all, thank you.
No problem.
But second of all, I think that, we get caught up in that. We don't have a niche or we don't have this, but like it is a niche in and of itself. It is a role. It is a salaried position at an agency. You know what I mean? Like being the overseer and being, knower of everything, not really master of anything, but knower of everything is valued, you know? And I think because for me, it goes deeper. Like I remember, dude, I took this trip to Spain because when I was 18, my mom was like, we have $1,000 for your 18th, because I mean you're Brazilian, I'm Venezuelan. Like the 18th birthday for the guy is like the sweet 16 for the girl.
You're a man now. Yeah, you're officially a man.
Exactly.
In other countries, you could drink now. You could do these. Yeah.
Right. So my mom was like, we have $1,000 for you. Okay, you can either get a car. My aunt lived in Spain at the time, and she was like, or you can go spend a month in Spain with your aunt. And I was like, let's go to Spain. So I go to Spain because I knew $1,000 car was going to be whatever.
It's going to be a $1,000 car. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, let's do it. And my aunt, I love my aunt. She's like us. She's in the musician world. Like she's a drummer, but like she loves everything. She's like a speaker. She does like everything. And she kind of ingrained in me in that trip. She was like, I know you're not really good at one thing, but like, and it wasn't her fault. I know what she was meaning, but she told me, and I remember it was like, people like us, we don't really get a place. It's like we really just we got to pick things like odd jobs, and like we just got to find it. And like I think that I took that into my head, and I was like, and I started like not really valuing myself because I was like, dang, maybe she's right. Maybe I don't deserve this vision that I for this, for example. Like this was when I was 18. I'm 22, and I was like, dang, I'm 22. I'm turning 23 tomorrow, by the way.
Happy birthday, by the way.
I had to throw that in there. I had to be like, I'm 22, because last day. But so I just think it's crazy that as creatives, because we're such critical thinkers, we can also be really, really, really big overthinkers.
Oh,
on
100%.
things like that.
That's one of the biggest issues with a lot of creatives. Even myself, is I haven't posted in a while, and I've had a lot of life things happen, events that have limited my posting. But even then, before that, has been a lot of, well, should I post this? Is it good enough? And then that perfectionism that kills more creatives. People think that I had to learn, even with like when I did my own podcast, my first episode, just an insight was, we did a Zoom call, and I was trying to record the Zoom call. I didn't record the Zoom call, so I lost the video from there. So there was that. Then, because I couldn't record the Zoom call, I couldn't record the audio, so I had to go on my phone, pull up voice memo, place it on here, and while it was playing from the speakers of my computer, record the audio.
Wow.
And that's what I posted. And I did it, and I was committed. It was a 2-hour long, long podcast. It was my first episode. I was like, let's just go until we feel like it's a natural end. And we went for a long time to show people like, hey, there's gonna be some long episodes here.
Yeah.
But even with that, some people ask me like, why did you do it that way and the audio and stuff? And I said, because if I try to make it perfect, I will never post it. I will never do it. Even like a podcast, like doing things like this, I'm not sure how long it took you to actually take the first step, but it took me forever to do my own steps. Even like leaving the church and not doing stuff just for the church or just for Christian brands or Christian people.
That's huge. That's a huge step,
bro. Oh my God. Yeah. Like it literally took me so long, and the fear in me of, one, it not being good enough. 2, me being criticized or critiqued from the church world and from mentors and stuff, and being canceled, right? Before cancel, like the cancel culture. Yeah. But I was worried. And that thought behind my head is, it's not good enough yet. So I don't want to put it out because I don't want my name attached to something bad. And I realized it's still much better than other people's. One thing.
right.
Like independent, it's still better than tons of people. And people like seeing, I think we get so focused and we forget that people like seeing the progress. I like using PewDiePie as a good example.
Oh, yeah.
He had very crappy quality when he started. PewDiePie. But like he had a thing, right? Yeah. And he built it. And you get to see the upcoming, right? In the upbringing. I think that's what people attach to, like that growth. And us as creatives, we sometimes lose our traction because we want to produce at such a high level. Like you could have done this hustle culture and say, I'm going to do one a day, which a lot of people try to do. And it's fine to have that spark, to have that passion and that grit behind you. But then you burn out, or you can't keep up with the quality that you're trying to put out and the quantity you're putting out.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, just post when you post. Just get stuff out there. Don't overthink it. Don't over edit it. Don't make it so superficial. People want more realism, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's why I find fun in it. Like, you're look to my Instagram as much as it is great, and you'll find mistakes. You're finding imperfections. You're finding things that maybe don't match up. And that's the beauty of it, because that's how life is.
Right.
And as creatives, I think we have to do that. Like, one of my favorite quotes, it's my own qute, so don't think I'm too selfish. But
no, it's fire.
Like, not to be super Christian-y, but it's like we're created by a creator, right? And we reflect him. I mean, we're looking, they can't see from the cameras, but we're looking outside, and there's trees, and there's beauty to nature, right?
Yeah.
Things that I can't capture, I can't do, and I try to portray in photography or whatever. People take this whole niche of nature photography, right?
Yeah.
And he created that and designed it. And if we're a reflection of it, that's built into us. Every person, I think, is creative. It's something that's our essence, that was breathed, into us. It just depends on how you release that. Are you creative in what area you are? So that's why I'm like, I'm a creative, but I think most people are. It's just some people tap into it and feed that part of themselves, and some people don't.
Right.
I know tons of salesmen that are creative as hell. They can, talk you into anything. They could sell meat to a vegan. They could sell water to a camel. Like, they could do anything. And I love that, because that's a creative, like, problem thinking, right?
Right.
And other people don't use that. But I know construction workers who are creative as hell. My stepfather, when I work with him, he did things I'm like, I never even thunk of that. Like, us immigrants, how many times as like immigrant, families, I saw my parents do stuff. I'm like, you got to be real creative to think of that,
Facts.
And they wouldn't consider themselves creative, but I'm like, that's a creative, like, problem solving right there that no one else would think of, and you just get it done. That's the idea, like, mentality of getting it done.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that about creativity. That's so huge. And that's definitely going to be on my Instagram as a clip. But no, for real. I mean, I like listening to, as most people do who have ambitions, of the people who've gone there. Yeah. And the way they always see creative, in our sense, like photo and stuff, it's like advertising is simply problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And all problem solving is critical thinking. You know, like when you were in in elementary school and you always, at the end of the workbook, there was always like the critical questions, and it was like the most annoying ones. It wasn't multiple choice. That's all it is. It's really just figuring that out and like finding a way to make it happen. And that's huge. I think I want to touch on that a little bit because, again, I love studying kind of prominent figures, and like I love like Gary Vee, for example. He talks about it all the time, you know, and whatever you think about the guy, I know he's very polarizing.
Love Gary Vee, by the way. I'm just going to keep
go.
I love Gary Vee. I've been on him before he really even got bigger.
Same.
Been watching him since like
Daily V.
Daily V. Yeah, like like 5, I think is when I got in. And I've been watching him and watching him and watching him. And I'm like, damn, this guy's the GOAT. Like, I love him. I love him. Yeah.
So he talks about it all the time, like the immigrant mindset, like the grind, you know, like working, like hard work. I think how much do you, and it doesn't even have to be an immigrant thing, because you don't have to be an immigrant to have that mindset, but
we're almost all immigrants anyways. But
exactly. But that, how much do you accommodate the way you're raised and the way you've had to learn to live to what you're doing in your every day-to-day, like work, the grind and stuff?
I think
you think it has a big difference? Because, you know, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, nature versus nurture. I think there's something that you're born with, right? From a fact. But I think what I was born with was initiated or turned on and kind of lit because of how I was upbringing. So if I was given maybe a different type of lifestyle or different parents, and I didn't go through the same grind I did, the same struggles, as much as I still would be me, and I would still have certain creative itches and stuff like that, or a work ethic still, because I think that's in me. That's something who I am. But I wouldn't have the same facility to it. So I wouldn't be able to just turn that on and turn it off as I do. You know, I could be laying in bed and then out of nowhere just come up with an idea, and I'll get up out of bed. It doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m, 4 a.m, or in the afternoon. Like I will do if I have to do it.
Nice.
And I learned that from my family, but I could have learned it elsewhere. I think I just got it to it sooner. I'm not that old. I'm 24. Oh. So I thought you were older, to be honest. When you said 22, I was like, dang, really?
I'm 23 tomorrow, so we're closer than we think.
I just felt like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm that old, but I know I'm getting older. But I know that people consider me to be older too. No, I think it's a beard and the hair. Maybe I don't know what it is, but I know that I come off as older a lot. But always I came off as older. Like my friends were always older, and I attribute that to like a lot of the things I went through made me grow up. Having to cook for my or to cook when I started made me learn how to cook it. Like if you never cook in your life, you have a chef at home, you're never going to learn that. And you might become a chef of yourself. And that's where I kind of nature versus nurture is you might be born with that gene, right? Yeah. But if you're never exposed to it, how do you know? Right. And so I attribute a lot of my livelihood and who I am today to how I was raised, where I was raised, the school I went to. I went to a vocational high school that allowed me to be exposed to being Adobe certified in high school.
Dang, that's cool.
Which is dope. That's like a lot of people don't even get that, even in the creative world, right? To be able to do this yearbook school photos, that was a huge step creatively, like outside of church, or even looking at engineering. I did engineering in high school. And looking at it and saying, like, I like this, but I don't think this is what I want to do with my life. Wow. And that was my goal. If I hadn't done it in high school, my brother's an engineer. I was probably just going to go to college and fully commit to it. And then it would have probably taken me 2 years in college to find out I didn't like it.
That's crazy, yeah.
Where I found it earlier because I went to high school, right? So it's all about that kind of mix. Is you could be, they talk about the same thing about the alcoholic gene. I'm not sure if you know, like in DNA, there's a gene that shows that you have addiction issues. And if you're never exposed
to serial killer gene,
exactly,
and things like that,
and those, someone could be normal their entire life, but if they're exposed to it, that could ignite that switch, right? Flip the switch. So really, the way I look at it is, yes, I was born a certain way, but thank God I had the grind that I did with my family, the immigrant background, the struggles and strifes I went through, because then that allowed me to then spark those things quicker versus being 24, 25, 30, and now realizing like, hey man, I don't like this job. I like to be creative, and be like, crap, what do I do now? You know,
Isn't that scary,
like, what do I do now? You know,
isn't that scary? That's like a big fear of mine. And I know friends who've gone through that. I mean, you know, I got a little bit of pushback on my last episode because I kind of like dumped on college.
I saw that one. Yeah, I saw it.
And I'd love to talk to you about it. And, I put the clip, and like the clip didn't really give the context because actually I think college is a great thing. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But kind of the main kind of issue that I got backlash for that was the fact that, like, I don't know, that they thought I wasn't like open-minded enough to like see how that would help somebody, or they didn't understand, or again, without the context, you don't see that like yourself. I went when I was 15 is when I picked up my camera at the church. So it wasn't like I had the high school course, but I had that small group in my church. So like that was the thing that introduced it to me. So I got to learn a lot like yourself before then. And I just think that kind of coincides because college being such a something that's supposed to give you that experience. You know what I mean? Like everything you just explained is kind of like the social blueprint of what college is supposed to be. Like
100%.
It's supposed to be the experimental, learn as you learn how to cook, do your laundry for the first time, stuff like that for, majority of the percentage here at, in the United States. And so for you, I don't know your story. I don't know if you went, if you didn't, if you dropped out, if you fully and graduated, but like how was your college experience?
So yeah, I started at a college. It's a larger college, MIT. And didn't really see it as like my future, and did theology actually. So I have a degree in theology.
Oh, nice.
So I switched out. I did Gordon College theology. So got my degree there because I have a passion for my religious beliefs. I wanted to know about them, and I study. I mean, I tell people that's why I piss off some Christians, but I do own multiple texts that are religious at home, not just the Bible. And I own multiple Bibles because I like reading and I like understanding, and I want to know both sides of things or multiple sides of things and to understand
awesome. It. Yeah.
I think that's the right way of doing it, personally, but that's a side topic on its own. But with college, that's what it allows you to do. And I think college is this, and college is a tool. If you don't need a hammer, right? Yeah. You're not going to use a hammer. Right. So like setting up this drywall, if I use, a sledgehammer or hammer, I'm going to break something. There's no need for that. I might just need some sandpaper, right? To fix something. And so college is that. It's a tool. Now, it can be good and it can be bad. Because it could be bad because you could be wasting your time, money, resources. For example, especially in the creative field, there's not much of a need to go to college. Now, are there plenty of people that I know that are creative that have gone to college? Tons. Graphic designers, photographers, everything that have gone to college have degrees in their field. And I have nothing against that. My biggest pet peeve with colleges or anything like that, and it's funny that you said you got some clap back from the video because I imagined you would from some people. Yeah. And I get that because I've gotten that too. I've dissed my friends who are accountants. And I've said it to them, not like it's not them in specific, but it's in regards to the mundane 9-to-5 job or anything like that. Granted, I work Monday through Friday, like a 9-to-5 almost, but I work from home. But similar is, do you find joy in that? Are you fulfilled in that? That's where I really look at it. If you are fulfilled being a doctor or a lawyer, then that's your fulfillment, and that's fine. Because the world needs doctors, it needs lawyers, it needs those positions. But a lot of jobs don't require a degree, and we're only getting it because it's almost like a badge of honor because our parents couldn't get it, or because our parents put the pressure on us to get it, or society says to get a good job you need this. Exactly. But you don't. You don't need a business degree to have a business. Yep. Now, do you learn things in a business school that you might not learn until you get into that situation while doing a job? 100%. Yeah. That's how I look at it, as like, depending on what degree you get, you won't learn it. You might learn it in college in your 4th year, 3rd year, 2nd year, and you might learn it in your 10th year doing business.
I think that's huge. And because the way I learn creative even is like, I kind of always say, and the way I buy gear, the way I do everything around investing time or thoughts or money into like my agency and what I do is like that. It's like, until I have the project that requires me to learn stop motion. Yeah. Why am I going to do it?
There's no reason to have that.
Exactly. But college allows you to do that and know it. And so you come out, prepared for whatever.
Yeah. I don't diss college. I say college is overhyped.
Exactly. That's what I say.
There's no need for it.
You work on my delivery because you said it perfectly.
Well, because that's like the realization people have to have is, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and certain things, there are qualifications for that position. Right. But going to college just to go to college is pointless, and it's a waste of money. I'd much rather people to take the mentality of, let's take a year off and let's find ourselves. Like, I know how corny it sounds, but find yourself. That's like real. Experiment. I wish every school had vocational options, because I know people who are born to be plumbers and they love it. They're happy. They're off on weekends and they don't have to bring their work home. Yeah. They clock in at 8 a.m. They leave at 4 o'clock. They make a lot more than people who go to college and they don't have any debt, and they're happy. I also know my friends. One of my friends, Lucas, who I've called him out so much I have to at least name drop him once. He's an accountant, and I've mentioned accountants. He's an accountant. Okay, nice. And I mentioned accountant a lot, and they're like, "Hey, stop!" I'm like, no. But he has a great job.
Yeah,
he gets paid very well. I think right out of school, he was definitely higher up. I'm not gonna name drop try to drop. I was like, let me think about that. But besides the point, he went to school for almost free, if not completely free, in Boston College. Did amazing with his life. He has 3 Jeeps. He has a side project where he works on Jeeps. He does all these things. And he enjoys his life. Yeah. Has a girlfriend in New York, lives in Boston, gets to travel with her. She works with this giant business in finance. He works in, as a accountant, and he loves it. That to me is perfect. He went to college, he did what he liked, and he enjoyed his life, and he makes good money, and he's fulfilled. Yep. The point where I see it is, if you go to college, you get a 9 to 5, you do something you don't like, that you don't have a passion for, and then you do it for 40 years or whatever, you're stressed out, and you complain about it. That's your choice. You made your bed, live in it. My issue is more with complaining. Don't complain about college debt. Because I would love to change it. I do think that we should change how schools charge. I think it's crazy that we have to pay that amount of money when other countries don't. Yeah. I think it's crazy that how much has gone up in the past years. So I think there should be some reform there. Hashtag Bernie. Let's get some free. But I would love to get a doctorate or PhD. I would love to do that. I think it's fun because I would learn stuff that I can't learn on my own. Right. Or it would be difficult for me to learn on my own, that I can learn through lectures and through teachers. But I'm not going to do it and then complain about it that I spent the money. It's like me buying, I'm lactose intolerant, right? And me getting a bunch of ice cream and eating it all and then complaining to you. Bro, you chose to do it, right? So if I know that the cost of college is $40,000 a semester or $30,000 a semester, then I better man up and know that that's the job. I'm not gonna complain about it. You chose that, right? I could have easily went to a community college, or I could have easily not gone to school and done other ventures and then go back to school. There's a lot of options out there. So that's why I think it is I don't look down upon people who do go to college. My sister's in college right now, and I'm super proud of her, and I'm happy for her. But I also have people who don't go to college, and I look down upon them. It really depends on what are you doing, what's your level of success, what does success look like to you. I like having time with my family, my dogs, my wife, my cat. I have a turtle now that we rescued. I rescued and take care of him. Nice. I like doing that. I like my vintage things. I can get into a whole conversation. My house is old. It's from 1908. I have an old 1980s TV that we just found. I like restoring things. I like doing that. Yeah. I like having time to do that. My job right now allows me to work from home. I love that. Yeah. Monday through Friday, have my weekends off, enjoy that. And I'm not going to complain about anyone to anyone about my life choices. Right. So I'm not going to criticize you if you choose to work in an office. If you want to suit up and work in an office, dope. Yeah. Or if you want to, I live in Wiley, far away from Dallas. Far away. In the more of the sticks. Drive out. Oh no, of course. And it's more of a sticks type of vibe. I hear the roosters crow in the morning, but I have my own space. I love that. I go outside, I go barefoot, I walk on the ground, I ground myself, walk my dogs. I love it.
That sounds amazing.
But that's for me, right? I'm not gonna diss you if you like living in a penthouse or a loft in the city, because I've had that experience and I know it's dope to live in the city, right? Yeah. But that's it's to each their own. I don't eat fish. You eat fish? Cool. I'm not gonna diss you for eating fish. I think that's the same thing with people's life choices. We've gotten really critiquey about people doing things. It's like, hey man, I don't like college. This is why. Do you though? Yeah. And let me do me.
It seems like such a easy social concept.
Oh yeah.
Just respect other people, love other people, and you don't gotta be in love to love. I think that's a common misconception, but bro, that's so true. I put out a little video on it. It's what's your definition of success? For me, is to be able to do this full time. That was my definition. If I can get to a point where I don't have to work a day job and do what I love, that's my success. I'm already successful. Everything else is just a bonus. So you know what I mean? So but I think that making that decision of, am I going to go to college? Am I not? It just narrows down to what's your definition and what brings you joy. If what brings you joy is being able to step out, hear the roosters crow, walk your dogs barefoot, you should take the steps to make that a possibility. Mm-hmm. If you want to climb the corporate ladder and if that's really your dream and your goal, then you should go to college and you should do those things. And I think I don't know if it's social media's fault for, the way that I'd love to hear your take on this, but the way that things are so polarizing nowadays, like it's either you have to have a stance and you have to be really firm in your stance, or you have to just not be opinionated. And
people hate you for that too, not being opinionated. So the idea I've seen it, and this is a lot of things, being religious, you see a lot of it, being in politics, you see it, being in just life choices, you see it, is if you're not for me, you're against me, which is not the case. Like, what hat do you have on?
The A's.
Cool.
Athletics.
So say, for example, I'm from Boston, right? And I'm in Dallas. Bro, I don't care if the Dallas Cowboys win or lose. I really don't. Like, I don't care because I'm not from Dallas.
Right.
Do I hate the Cowboys? No. You know, that's the same concept. Like, just because I'm not for you or it's not my thing doesn't mean I hate it. I don't own a Honda. I don't hate Hondas. Like, it's so applicable to so many areas of life. The only way I see it where we should care or take such a large stance on it is if it's harming or harmful to others. Right. So, for example, if I actively choose to out people from a different culture or different thing, that's fine. But like, I don't know, like I have tattoos. I'm not sure if you have tattoos or not, but if you don't,
I want to.
I'm not out there shouting out like you don't, like, you know, like that's wrong for you to have tattoos. Even in church, like I was criticized for having tattoos. I'm like, bro, I don't criticize you for not having tattoos. So let me do my thing. I have a really big, if I were to say what my stance is politically, morally, and everything is, I'm just, let me do me, you do you. That's 100% what it is. If you're not hurting other people or hurting my family or hurting me, do you, bro. If you want to start 10 ad agencies, if you ask my opinion on it, it's different. And that's where I think it is people are self-opinionated in like these keyboard warriors. And that's what's happened. It's how we communicate now through social media and stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think social media is still a tool. People are the problem in all these situations. It's the same thing with guns don't kill people.
Right.
It's the same. It's the same. Okay. It's the same thing. Social media is the thing. It's not the issue. It's people on social media is the issue.
Don't you think that the way that, just to give a little pushback, just to keep it going, the way, I mean, the way that, because of the fact that social media is such a like not context giving platform, like a Twitter, for example, known as the toxic wasteland of 2021.
Like forever, really. I mean, forever. Since its existence.
I just remember it being, nice memes and like funny stuff. Now it's like political, like everything. But anyways, it doesn't really give you an option to contextualize things. Like us sitting down having a conversation, I feel like it'll be a lot harder for us to get heated and mad because we can feel different things outside of our screen.
Yes.
So don't you think that
you also have a fear that I'm going to punch you, like someone's going to punch you in the face. You're not going to just say stuff that people say on social media.
Exactly. Or even I can feel that your vibe is positive. Like,
or the emotion. Yeah. So I think that, but it's not social media's fault. I think that social media lacks a personal touch. It's the same thing back before social media was really a thing, where you have famous people, politicians, whatever, going on news outlets. Right. And then they would get their words twisted. And people are like, oh my gosh, did you see Johnny Depp say this on that or that? Yeah. I'm not going to bring up Johnny Depp because it's all different. Every time I bring up someone, it's like, man, they're in trouble right now. Everyone's in hot water nowadays. But said artist, celebrity goes on a news reporter's thing and they can edit the video, or just the way they said it doesn't come off as right. They're not the best, expresser of their feelings. I mean, I worked at Tesla for almost 4 years, and Elon Musk is one, for example, that he's very poor at expressing himself. And with that, you can get certain vibes. He also has Asperger's, so that kind of explains why he has some issues with that. But keeping that in mind, if you meet him in person, it's a different conversation. So I think that anywhere that you are removing the personal touch, even a podcast, as much as we might explain something on yours, like you still get clap at, you still get heat from it because people see that video. They don't see that. The same thing with, there's an old corny phrase where it's like, oh, you're seeing my, don't compare your life to, when people compare people's Instagrams to their life, like don't look at their highlight reel and compare it to your, your whole life, your whole gameplay. People post what's best on social media. I know that. That's one thing that we don't have is like, you don't see me when I'm lazy. We don't post about that. Will Smith, I love what he did recently he posted his natural body the way it is, because that's what I think what we need. And I think social media could be such a great tool for advocacy and for expression. one of the reasons why I like TikTok kind of is I just recently got into it because I don't have to think. At least I don't feel like I have to think as much. I just post. I'm not like I'm posting a lot. I post
It's
like
a
3
naturally
videos.
raw platform.
It's a more raw platform. Like it doesn't matter if you're not posting quality or all these things. There are areas for that, and there definitely is appreciation for it. But it's not like if you don't have that, you suck.
Yeah.
And the same goes for like what Will Smith is doing with that. Like, hey, I lost my body. Like I look bad. Here's what it is. This is my truth. And once again, I put the pressure on people. We always have put up a facade. Think about when you were a kid. I'm not sure if this is true for you, but it was for me. My mom, my brother, we could have a shout, almost a fist, like fighting. But if we got to church, if we got somewhere else, you better stop crying. You better clean up your face. No one can know we had issues.
Right.
No one can know if you fought with your mom, or the photos on New Year's always had to look good.
Yeah.
We had to get the photos of the drip from church service, us in suits and my mom in a dress, like, and nothing against that, but it didn't show the whole picture. So you might see a happy family, or you might see this, but you didn't know like 2 minutes ago we just fought or something like that. And I've always been intrigued with that. Even like with my brother, if we had fights, I would take, or like an argument, we would post a good photo and I would take photos of like us arguing just to put like more, not to like as a anger, but more of like comparison, how fading is like our feelings, right? Even in like happiness versus like anger, how fleeting are those? But because social media, you post it and it's almost permanent.
Right.
People are permanently seeing that. Like something you did 10 years ago where the world was different is now permanently a construct of who you are. And you might have changed. Like I have changed so much politically, religiously, like so many belief systems, right? Like if you asked me when I was 10 what I believed, and you ask me what now, it's way different, right? And that's like 14 years, right? But then you get like an artist or someone else, or once we're older, right, and we have enough time on social media, people are like, well, you posted this 10 years ago. Do you still believe that? Of course not. 10 years has passed. If you'd asked me 4 years ago, do you think that we're going to all be wearing masks and like it? And people were going to like doing that, because I know people that love it, and now that the masks are going away, they're like, no, I don't. I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
I would think, hell no, that's crazy.
Right.
But now I've been given new information. The environment around me has changed, and I've gained more knowledge, so I can address it currently. I think I would love to be like a Snapchat of social media, is where you could post things and they stay and you put an expiration date yourself. So your things automatically update and change based on your expiration date. So you don't have to go back and change. I would think that, I'm going to patent that soon.
Yeah.
Like where you can just post like my Instagram. Like there are things there which people think are dope, but if I just go back, I don't do this. I'm not deleting things, but I'm like, man, those aren't real. Or man, I fell in love in there because I had a girlfriend before my wife. Like I should probably delete all of these things, So like, things are so time, you're getting this conversation because of years of work. That's the same reason why people are like, oh, why do you charge so much for a video shoot or this or that? It's like, because I have years of experience behind me. It's not just a $5,000 camera or whatever it is, or not just, it's just not your buddy doing this. This is years of investment, years of growing, learning, and technique. Even if you provide the equipment, my technique is years of technique behind it. I don't care if you give me your MacBook, your camera. That's not what's valuable. What's valuable is my knowledge and my take on it, right? But with social media, unfortunately, depending on how you look on it, and that's why I don't look on it like that way, is if you look on it that black and white, then you go back 10 years and you still associate that with you, or 4 years, whatever it is, you're like, oh, Andre's this guy. I'm like, no, my first social Instagram post was in 2011, I think, when it came out. I had Instagram very quickly. And I'm like, I'm definitely different from 10 years ago, whatever, or almost 10 years ago. Yeah. It's almost 10 years with Instagram now.
Something like that.
And I'm like, think of that. Like, that's 10 crazy. Years, bro. You were 12, decade, 13. Dude.
Yeah.
What were you posting when you were 13 to now? Like, it's so different.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak eloquently. I didn't know the things I did. I thought it was a sin to drink. Like, I was young. I thought it was a sin to drink. Like, I probably criticized people for a lot of things and thought different things. I was raised where I was raised. And then once I grew up, when I'm 15, I change.
Right.
Once I have my first, once I'm 18, I change.
Every year, 21, dude, every 6 months, I feel like.
Bro, it could be today. You can give me a different pushback on something. And I think that's what the conversations aren't happening. And I don't think that's any platform's fault. I think there are certain contenders that do certain things that unfortunately limit free speech, but I think that we have to be open to have conversation.
Yeah.
Our parents didn't teach us that. In my broad view, as like our generation, they said, oh, politics and religion, we don't talk about that here. Or don't talk about politics at the table. So when do we talk about it? We forgot how to talk about
and
things.
I think that's the appropriate way, as I've been learning and growing in like because you know, when you do advertising, when you do things, like you want to have people, I mean, the goal is, I mean, obviously depends on what the campaign is or whatever, but for majority of it is you want someone to see and then convert to click on website or convert to buy product or convert to this. But like with people and relationships, it just doesn't work like that. Like I can't put out an opinion and for people to see and just accept it.
Yep.
You know, there's a bridge in between. And, you know, I'm like you, right? I love theology. I'm more surface level. Like I like learning about, you know, new covenant, like truths and stuff, as opposed to the old covenant and how that works, like stuff like that. But at my brother-in-law, Gavin, shout out Gavin. He was a pastor, you know, came into Grace Message, and like, he's like you in that way. Like he's had years of just studying. He's I think 28. And we were talking about like, cause we both are no longer at the church that we worked at. Yeah. And we were like, how can we keep spreading the message without a machine of a church or like of something that like to help? And one of the things we said was like, or he talked to one of our family friends or something like that. Someone who I've been trying to like talk to, because he's super like into law and like religion. He's a pastor's kid and like Southern Baptist. Like,
PKs, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I'm trying to like help him see through like some new covenant truths. And I've never been good at that because I don't have the scripture. Like I never dove into it as deep as someone like you or someone like him. So, but he did. He texted or he posted something like kind of controversial on his IG, and like, you know, controversial thing. Our friend responds to it. How can you believe this? And then he says, you know, his brief summary of why. And he goes, but I think we should get coffee because it can't translate here. And I think that's the call to action with social media. It's like, if you're actually seeking to connect with someone and not just grow on social media and not just, you know, get someone to buy your product personally or like listen to my podcast or whatever, if you're actually trying to grow your friendships and stuff, like that's the goal. Like, let's go from digital to like real life, you know?
And even if it's digital, like for example, we're in Dallas, right? You might not be able to talk to everyone across the country, across the world, whatever it may be. But even then, use it to your advantage. Like, I would love to have a conversation with people if I were to, especially on my podcast, because it's more targeted towards controversial conversations, just how they naturally come up. But I'd love to have the conversation with people, right? To explain my side. Because I've said things that on surface level, I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to be controversial, but I'll say something that like on surface level, just a statement is controversial. Okay. But then when I have the chance to discuss it and express what I mean, people will take it in and go, I see where you're coming from. I understand it now. But unless I'm giving the opportunity to, or the platform to, there's no leeway. Yeah. You don't know what I'm saying. Because I could say something like, oh, I don't like black cabinets. And that's a broad statement. Whoa. But then you understand, like, oh, my mother was killed by a black cabinet. And you're like, oh my God. You understand, like, Cruella. You see the movie Cruella yet?
I haven't yet. I need
Dope.
to.
We watched on Disney Plus. Really good. But there's some context there of like why she doesn't like Dalmatians in specific. And so it's a different take on the story, obviously. Right. But I love stories like that because you understand. It's kind of like in movies where you're like, why is this guy, doing this? And then you find out, oh, because he was abused or this happened. And you're like, that makes sense. I don't condone what
like
they're doing.
Thanos with what happened in his planet. Or
exactly.
Whatever.
Like you understand, like, okay, cool. I don't fully agree with what he's doing, but I get it. Yeah. There's more, and that's the thing. Like, I don't have to agree with everything that you say. You don't have to agree with everything I say. I don't have to agree with every single person in Massachusetts. I don't have to agree with every single person in Texas. That's not my goal. Yeah. I want to have a conversation so we can see each other and see that our differences aren't that large. Even though I might say I like coffee more than tea or tea versus coffee, they're both very similar. Like they're very different than juice, So there's a conversation in there. And then even then it's like, oh, I love juice. I don't like coffee or tea. Well, you're still drinking something, there's
always common ground.
There is always common ground. And unfortunately with social media, I think the thing has happened and just the way that we've changed as a culture is if we don't see that common ground initially, that person is then the enemy. And it's not the case. Once again, enemies are those who are actively trying to harm or destroy others, not those who just have a different view, like politically, religious. It doesn't matter. If you have a different view, that's fine, bro. If you're not trying to kill people with whatever this type hat is or leather jackets, then I'm good. If you say you don't like them, by all means, bro, cool. That's
Yeah.
do you, man?
Yeah.
That's fine by me.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone wears glasses. I don't hate on people who don't wear it in the same way as I'm not bashing on people who do wear it. You know,
Right.
like, do you, bro? And if we want to find common ground on it, let's have a conversation. Let's go out for coffee. Let's do that. Let's like have a face-to-face. I know COVID kind of prevented that.
Right.
Heck, let's hop on a Zoom call. Like, even on a Zoom conversation when there's a back and forth, you get different nuggets. And I've changed my opinion on things. Yeah. Like, I've had a conversation where I was like, I had a firm stance, and then they spoke on it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'm gonna start. And I literally said in that conversation, one of my friends, Carlos, we had a conversation religiously, and I forget what it was, like specific. One or two things of like either free will or something else like that, specifics. And we got into it, not like arguing, just have a conversation. We were at a Lebanese restaurant eating, and we were talking. And then at the end of it, I was like, you know what? I've changed my stance on this now, and now I'm gonna start using this type of way of expressing it. And I said it open, and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought this when we were talking.
Yeah.
I think differently now. Thank you, because now I have a different perspective and more insight to that, to see that, right?
Yeah.
It also, I think it changes when we talked about nature versus nurture of what you went through. For example, not to get dark and not to take up too much of your. I know I'm the guest, so I kind of.
Dude, I don't have a limit on these, so
Okay,
I love talking for a long time. Don't worry about it.
Because I know I can talk for a minute, but my background, part of it, I don't consider myself just this, but my family, I in specific, was abused sexually. Not to bring it dark, it's not dark at all, but because I have a different perspective on sexual abuse than possibly someone else, right? Or other people. And so when people bring into that, I think there's, when you're in school, you learn about like pathos, logos, and ethos. And so you'd have your logical, you have your emotional response, and then you also have your experience. So like, I might talk for days about, how a plane should fly, but if you bring an air pilot, he takes higher ground in explaining that, right? I might take all the conversations on earthquakes, but what do they do? What first responders do on like the news reports? They speak to the people there because they've experienced it. They might not be an expert on earthquakes or natural phenomenon, but because they were a part of it, they are now experts in that area because they've gone through it, right? So I think it also changes when you go through it. So if you've never gone through it, having conversation with people and seeing why they have that thought, because people just don't think things because they think things. Even like cancel culture, it came out of something.
Right.
There's a reason behind it, and I try to think that there's a good intent behind it, although I don't like it. I try to be positive thinking and like there's must be a good intent.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement, cancel culture, all this kind of started at the same time. So I'm like, okay, there probably was a good intent.
Right.
And it's deviated from that. And I really do think it's deviated. But what's the intent behind it? And let me have a conversation with people that have that hard stance. My sister and I, we're very different on a lot of things. Like we don't even, she has taken the stance of, she's like, don't talk to me about politics. Because we're very different.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And she's young, she's 18. And I said, hey, when you're ready to talk, she's 19 now. Oh my God, she's 19. I'm 24, right? Yeah, I'm 24.
You said you're 24.
I'm trying to think of how old I was. And I'm like, is she 19? And I'm trying to do
you
math.
do that too? Like, like how many years you're apart?
Me and my sister are 5 years apart. Yeah, we're 5 years apart in a week. We're 5 years in a week, yeah.
My little brother, we're 10 years, and we're both born in the same month. Yeah. So it's so easy.
So, yeah, my sister and I February, and we're a week apart in February. I'm the 6th, she's the 13th. And then we're 5 years apart. So I literally was thinking, I was like, she's 19. I thought she was 18 only. Wow. So she's 19. I've been saying she's 18 probably since she's turned 18.
Wow.
But her and I have different views. And one, I'm older than her, so I've gone through different life than her. And I'm not saying my position's 100% right, but she has different views. I have different views. And so right now she doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. We talk about tons of things, my sister and I. And there are sometimes moments that we do seep in some politics or seep in some political ideas.
Yeah.
But I still love her, and we still have conversations. I love my sister. We talk, we FaceTime, we do things.
Yeah.
And I think that if people saw that more, like, what if you had a disagreement with your sister? Do you disown them? No. So don't disown people that have different agreements, viewpoints, right? Even creatively, like the way you edit your stuff. By the way, do you edit your videos and everything by yourself? Love it. Oh, thank you. I can't, I'm not trying to hype you up, but I love the unison of it all. And with that in mind, though, like, I could easily come back, oh man, I don't like it. It's not grunge enough. That's a bad way of doing it. No. Like there's different, different
That's
folks,
life.
different strokes. Yeah, bro. Like
Exactly.
this place right here that we're in is super urban type vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if I came in here, like, one, I'd be a terrible guest. If I were you, I'd be very fearful of the podcast if I came in this way. But I'm like, man, I hate this layout, right? It's like, bro, shut up. One, but like, then you go to my house, right? In my house, where I intend to do more podcasts and where I work from on my Zoom, everyone sees. So I have stained glass window behind me. It's old, and my name's Leonardo Saint. Like,
right.
I have to play on the Saint, right?
Yeah.
And it's a cool vibe, and it was already in the house, right? It's old and that kind of like Gothic vibe.
Yeah.
I like that, but I don't say Gothic style of architecture versus urban Gothic wins. They're just different, right? Like, what's better, cheeseburger? Or what ultimately is better in all categories, a cheeseburger or pizza? You might like one better.
Oranges,
you might like one better, but which one's better than each other? Like, I don't know.
Because objectively better. Like,
objectively.
Yeah.
I will say there are burgers that are better than different burgers, though.
Yeah.
Like, there are some burgers. Like,
there's a Gothic style house that might be better than another Gothic style house.
And that's where I think we should be targeting towards, and creatively and as like a society.
Yeah. And in a society, you said there's always common ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that never changes. Like, you can find, like, even with pizza and burgers, okay, they both have carbs. Like, you can always find something. I think it's also, and this is, again, very attributed to how you were raised. Like, I don't know about you. I was raised with treat others how you want to be treated, you know, be honest, like good morals. I understand, though, that a lot of people weren't. A lot of people don't have a father in their home. A lot of people have divorced parents. They didn't get, so, you know, just as like they might judge me, I'm not going to judge them that they're not as like good at that as I am or whatever. It's the same thing, but the ability to want to be receptive to hear someone else. Like, the fact that you went into a restaurant with your friend and you were able to hear their side accurately, that's rare. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
tough. It's
it's hard because pride is a real thing and everyone has it. And it's like, it's something you got to, like, you know, for some of us, it's harder, you know, if you have a natural self deprecating like nature thing, like a lot of creatives do. It's like, it might be a little easier to just adapt and mold and go with the flow. If you're super, you think you're the best and you think you're amazing, then
you're the guy.
You might be the opposite. You know what I mean? You might hate everything else.
Ego's a tough thing to overcome. And it's like, I think the more difficulty too is that adaptability is hard, because then how do you have strong morals if you're so adaptable? And so that's like the catch-22 or the matrix you're in. And you're like, how do I have strong beliefs but still be adaptable to other people's beliefs, right? And my wife and I have had being married. How long have you been married now?
Just about to be 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
First year is always the toughest, I think, in my opinion,
Yeah.
especially going through COVID and all these things. And if you made it through COVID and you're still married, shout out to everyone who's still married during COVID.
For real. Shout out to you.
I mean, Bill Gates got divorced. Freaking everyone's getting
Jeff
divorced.
Bezos, everybody.
Like everyone has gotten divorced, and especially through COVID. So
yeah.
Shout out, Kanye West and Kim. I'm a big Kanye fan. So COVID has hit everyone from rich to poor hard, being stuck at home so often, and you get to really see the person. But that's a perfect meld. I use like a lot of scripture and church references, but like marriage to me is a large life lesson, because you're learning to adapt consistently to other people's habits, traits, and things you don't like, things you do like. And it's like, do I want to change my wife, or do I love her for who she is? And what do we need to change? Like, there are things that we do need to change. There are things that I need to change because it's not good for us. If I have a bad spending habit and my wife tells me to stop spending, it's not that she wants to change me, she doesn't love me. It's just that I have something that's damaging us, right? And that's the tough part of, like, we have to be critical in thinking, and especially as creatives, as you mentioned before, like, that's critical thinking, and use our forefront of our mind and use our critical thinking and be like, okay, cool. This is something that's damaging. We need to address. This is something that's just a person. Like, I like talking a lot.
Yeah.
If I'm not damaging anyone by my talking, let me talk.
Right.
I talk fast. Like, I get it. I hope your viewers like it, but if they don't,
they'll like it.
It's by all means, it's one video and a plethora of videos and content out there. And I'm sure there are people that will like it, right? And if you hate it, sure, throw a dislike button. Any interaction is great. Like, talk about me, don't talk about me. Everything's good. But I see it as that balance is tough, because then at some points I'm like, because I'm willing to accept things. So, for example, it's crazy. I'm not sure if you stand on this, but if I cut you off during driving and if I do anything to you, I fully accept and welcome you to do the same to me. And that's how I see it.
Yeah.
But what was difficult for me, which because I treat others how I want to be treated. So if I do something to you, I
Exactly.
expect that in return, good or bad. But then the difficult thing for me too was I can't expect everyone to then treat me how
That's
I
the
want to
tough
be treated.
part. That's
Because
the
even though
tough
I'm
part.
treating people how
Yep.
they want to, it's different. Like my wife, she's very able to separate the two. She can, like, I don't know, tickle me. I'm just gonna use that because I can't find another example. But hate being tickled. I can't do anything I don't like being done to me. I can't do to
won't like
others.
it. Yep.
I can't because I expect them doing it back to me.
I'm the
That's how
same.
I think it. But then in the same breath is she's able to do that, which I thought was a bad thing. But then when we talked about it, I'm like, that's a great superpower because then for the same way is like I have a love language and I like receiving that, but my wife doesn't. So I had to learn to accept something that I don't like or something that I like and give something that I don't like myself, which is tough because like, for example, like if physical touch, right? I like hugging, I like touching, I like dapping up, whatever.
Yeah.
But my wife doesn't like it. Cool. She has to know that I want it, so she has to give it to me. But in return, to make her happy, she likes gifts and words of affection. So I have to give that back to her. Or like I'm super, like the same way I'm right now, I'm super active. I don't need coffee to be active in the morning. I enjoy my morning coffee and my tea and stuff, but I don't need to be. She's a slow starter. So instead of changing that, I have to learn to adapt to it and not always give what I receive or receive what I give, which is a tough thing to, like treat others how you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
But also turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
And also do this. So it's like,
yeah.
what do I do? Because then I expect others to turn the other cheek, right? Like if I did something wrong to you, just turn the other cheek. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really it's difficult because then it's like, what do I do here? And you have to be like Bruce Lee, be like water. Always molding, man. You got to change like to every single every situation.
Surface. I think for me growing up, that was the biggest, like, not the biggest, but the most applicable, like, moral statement, I guess. Treat us how you want to be treated. Like, that just made sense, right?
Oh yeah,
it's
the
like
golden rule is
reciprocal.
Huge.
Like, that's just how life should be. And then I heard give without expectation. And I was like, oh, that makes even more sense. Because you don't need to be reciprocal. What was I think Casey Neistat made a video on it, a whole video on it, based off of something Dan Mace. Do you know who that is?
Yeah,
he's like the guy who helps him. And now he does his own thing. Him and his wife, it was like their core belief in their marriage was like, love plus no expectation equals happiness. And it's like, that's so facts. Like, and I think that encapsulates exactly what you're saying, which is tough, right? Because it's not because you don't want to give that to her, but it's because that's probably just not even what you're thinking about. Like, because if you like physical touch, you're probably not even thinking about giving her anything else besides that, because that's just how you think.
Like, I don't like getting gifts. It sounds weird. I'm a person, like, she bought me a gift for, I think, my birthday or something, like a Christmas something, and it was a ring. I'm not wearing it right now. I keep it safe because I treasure it.
Right.
Has an S on it. I've been looking at this ring and designing it and fantasizing it forever.
Nice.
I love it. It has Lapuz Lazuli, which is it's not expensive. It's not an expensive ring. It's just a nice ring.
Really cool, yeah.
With Italian, like the aesthetics of it's nice, and I like nice things. But I'm not very materialistic. Like the things I have, this is a coin made with a fork, for like $20 at like a farmer's market. Keeps its color and everything. Like, I'm not very materialistic. This is Walmart BT-dubs. If you guys want to shop the style, this is Walmart right here. Like $6 at Walmart. So, you can look good for cheap.
Yeah.
But this was free. It was a gift.
Nice.
I sound like a pastor. It was all gift. but like, she knows that. But she gave me a gift knowing that I won that specific one. But like, she knows that for me, it's tough sometimes because it's like, I don't like receiving gifts as much. But then I learned I really do like giving her gifts. Yeah. I've learned to love that because I know that she gets happy in it. So where I used to try to get joy of like that, give and, do unto others, I found my happiness is her being happy, right? So I can make her happy. It doesn't matter how I got there, right? It doesn't matter if it's something I would like. Like she hates gravy, by the way. Like I'm not sure if it's a public sin in Dallas, but she doesn't like gravy. Yeah, hates a strong word, but she does not like that gravy. Right. And I always try to eat it. Like I get her on it. I'm like, man, you gotta eat mashed potatoes with gravy. Yeah. You gotta eat turkey with gravy. Come on. Yeah. And so like,
especially turkey. Turkey's just like, dry come on.
And she's not a fan. She's not a fan of gravy. And we had a conversation. She goes, why can't you just enjoy without like having me enjoy it? And I was like, that's a deep question. I'm like, babe, I'm gonna get you on a podcast one day. Yeah. Like that's a good question because it's like, yeah, because I'm all about that. Like what? And it's funny because I'm always about that. Like, let me do me, you do you.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like when I really like something, I want other people to like it, right?
Mm.
Like, I think that same idea. Like, I love my iPhone. I want everyone to know that I like my iPhone. You should like it too.
Yeah.
But then I realized, like, man, I'm bugging her every time we go somewhere that has gravy to eat this. And she goes, I just want to enjoy my food without you trying to push gravy on me. I don't like gravy. And I'm like, and so we had a conversation, and I really took it like deeper, where it's like, man, that's the same thing with everything. Like, she really likes gifts. That's what she likes. Like, she takes her birthday to a T. And so she's about it. I don't care for my birthday. My birthday, I was on a flight to Brazil to visit my grandma. And that's what I did for my birthday. Like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But her, if that was her, not happening. Her birthday, we're going to be at Disney. We're going to do this. It's all about her. She can do anything she wants as long as it's not illegal.
Right.
That's her mentality. And she loves it. And I would used to criticize that. And I'm like, not to her, but like to other people. I'm like, why do they care so much about their birthday? But I'm like, that's just something for her that how she was growing up, that was her day.
Right.
And that was like her one day a year. And I'm like, I get that. I don't do it, but I get it. I respect it. And I'm going to do everything I can to help fulfill that.
Wow.
And be a good husband there.
Yeah.
Without like having to force it upon her. And she doesn't force it upon me. She doesn't like, you have to do something for her birthday. You do something for her birthday. Because I don't enjoy gravy. You know, that's the mentality. So that's like our inside thing. Like, hey, let me enjoy you enjoy your gravy. I'll enjoy my other, like my salad or whatever it is. I'm like, all right, I got you. Like, it's tough, but it's a good lesson to learn that, like that, do unto others and not expect. Yeah. It's a good one. I'm going to start using it more.
Yeah. And I think it just circles back, right? Because you were using marriage as the pinnacle example of problem solving in relationships anywhere. Yeah. And I don't know, man. I think in my last one with Arnold, my last podcast episode, no, the one before that one. Yeah. We talked about marriage because he asked me, because the last time we had talked to each other was probably a few months before my wedding. And so he was like, you're married now? So I was like, how is it and stuff? Because he just got engaged and he's going to get married. And so he wanted to learn some stuff. And I just think a lot of people in the singleness phase think a lot about like, we have to have this alike or it's not going to work. Or like, we have to like anime, or like we have to like pancakes and not waffles. Like, we just put these things in our minds of like who we think would be in our the love of our life. And like, I don't know about you, but like, I mean, you've kind of expressed it. There's so many differences between me and my wife. Yeah. In so many different things. And you could look at it in two ways. You can be like, oh my God, it's so annoying. We have to watch a rom-com instead of an action-packed movie. Or you could I'm gonna out myself here. I am on season 6 of Vampire Diaries.
Really? I have never watched Vampire Diaries.
Me neither. You know why? Because in my head, it's a girl show. And like, it just doesn't appeal to me. So I'm like, when we got married, when we dated, you know, it was a little different because it was like, I'm not gonna watch that, and she would respect that. But when you're married and you're living together, like we're watching whatever we're watching.
You're
together.
in the bed together. Like, you have to pay. You're both laying there. You're like, all right, I'm gonna watch on my phone, put my AirPods in real quick. It's like, no, you're not. No, it
don't work like that.
If you want to keep on sleeping on that bed, you're not gonna do that.
Exactly. So so I started watching it, and it's cheesy. It's everything I expected it to be. And then and this is just an analogy of everything else, right? So I'm watching the show at first. Everything I knew I was going to hate about it, I started hating about it. And I was like, oh, man, whatever. Like, it's making her happy. Whatever. I'll watch it. I get to, like, eat chips or something while I'm watching it. Yeah. I could do something else. So we're watching. First season's over. Okay, cool. Going into the second season. Okay, now the show's changing a little bit. It's getting a little darker, less high school drama-ish because, it's a long show. So I guess they had to kind of go with the age. And so when it gets a little darker, they go into college instead of high school. So it just starts getting good. And I'm like, I'm actually really starting to like enjoy this show, which is weird. I told my aunt, like, I'm like, she's telling me like, how's life, married and stuff. And I was like, she's married too. So every time she gets a chance, she'll say this. She'll be like, is she misbehaving or stuff like that? She always like asks, right? And I'm like, I'm watching Vampire Diaries now. I'm a whole different man. And she's just judging me like, why the freak are you watching that? And I'm like, no, but if I never would have accepted that and like decided to accept that difference and be like, not just am I gonna accept it, but I'm gonna like dive a little bit into it. I'm sure after season 1, she even told me after one episode, if you don't want to watch it, we don't have to watch it. Yeah. Right. So maybe even maybe after the first corny episode, I still like something about it, right? Because
you're like, oh no, it's fine, babe. Let's watch it. Yeah. Get some brownie points,
Exactly. But no. So she, I'm watching and I don't know. I just think that if you just allow the things that you might disagree with in your life, you might realize that maybe you might not disagree with it. But I think so many people think of things at such a surface level.
They also think they put so much weight on it. It's like, ultimately, right? You watch you're in season 6.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it till this day, what did you lose? Right? Like, ultimately, what are you losing? Right? I think that we put so much pressure on things. Like, this is my life. This is like, no, bro, it's a TV show. It's like, if you don't like Naruto, it's fine. Like, my wife does not like anime.
You like Naruto?
I love Naruto. Like, I love Naruto. Like, I would like Naruto. I love it. The continuation with his son, not bad. I still enjoy it, but I'm more like, especially Naruto. Shippuden, it was definitely the best for me. But like, know it from back to front. And my wife's not into it, but I'm not gonna complain to her. Like, I just watch on my own or like whatever. Or she didn't ever get into The Office or How I Met Your Mother. We just recently finished How I Met Your Mother together.
I need to watch that.
She's never watched it. So you haven't seen it?
No.
So good. I love it. The last episode is terrible. It's like one of the second rated or number 1 rated worst episodes, like Dexter,
really?
Lost. Yeah, these shows are like the worst last episode. So there's that. It is polarizing. But like, I think it's a masterpiece up until that point. They had a few mistakes at the end, but it's fine. It's like Game of Thrones really got bad after season that.
Yeah.
How I Met Your Mother was really bad, like the last few decisions in the season or in the series. But she liked it, and she's a big Friends fan, and she loves Friends. And I'm like, I don't hate Friends, but it's not my thing. Like, I'm not that hyped up into it. Like, I watched the Friends reunion with her because she wanted to watch it. Like, that's what I think. That's like, it's compromises, right? And it's funny because even like bringing it into like, I try not to do this all the time on Everywhere I Talk, but like bringing it into kind of Christianity and a few points is like, there's a few things like when we were talking about expecting nothing in return, Jesus did that all the time. Like when Judas betrayed him, he called out to him and said, "Friend, what are you doing?" Like, he didn't call him betrayer. He didn't call him, he called him friend, knowing that he's betraying him, right? So it wasn't his actions that defined who he was. It was, he's my friend. That's my stance. Independent that he's betraying me. And then more so is like how I express it, like my relationship with my wife. Like, that's the closest thing I have until I have children to that experience of like another level, right? And I look at it as like, I've learned so much things with my wife that I would never learn. Like the same thing we're talking about college. College could not teach me, or if it could, it would take 10 years to learn what I've learned in 4 years of marriage. Cause I got married young, so 4 years married. I mean, you're 2 years?
Yeah.
And you're 23. Yeah, so we've got right about the same time. I was a little bit younger, but I was really adamant I just got married. I was ready to go. But like, people think they have to be identical, and I found that I think I would hate. Think about this: like, if you had a twin, or not a twin, like a clone of yourself, identical to yourself, you probably hate them, and people realize that because you start noticing things that you hate about yourself. And so there are a few things. One, people think that, especially in marriage, and not to get too much into that, but I mean, this is a free.
Let's go.
People think that marriage is he completes me, she completes me. If you think that, you're going into it wrong.
And you're gonna hate it.
Marriage is, and a relationship is, I'm a full whole person on my own, and that is another full whole person. And together, we're a married couple, and yes, we're one flesh. All these things that biblical references and religious references have in other texts, but you are still your own people. And so the moment that you depend on that other person being your half is when you have issues. The second thing is, in talking about like not wanting, is it talks about husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands. And some people misconstrue that. And it's that as men, we like the respect, the honor. But sometimes what happens is our wife doesn't respect us or doesn't put that in there. And so our reaction is either I'm going to cheat on her, or I'm going to stop loving her. I'm going to be distant. Or if I'm angry at her, I'm not going to do this. Or if the wife's mad at you, or your wife's mad at you, I'm not going to clean the house. He's going to clean on his own. But so then you have a choice: is am I going to push that fight or that argument or the disagreement further, or do I choose happiness? A pastor I had, I don't agree with the pastor as much, but he used to say all the time, and I love this saying, and I still use it this day, is, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? You have a choice to make. And I choose being happy every day over being over being right. Because I could win that fight in terms of a debate, right? Like I won and I proved my point. But what is the cost of me proving my point? What is the cost of me being right in that moment? Whereas like if I feel like I'm losing respect with my wife or I'm not getting what I'm trying to get, the only way to fix that is to love her more. So if we're in an argument, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, it's just my mentality that I keep as my goal now is to love her more.
Wow.
Because now, so I look at it as like, take 100%, right? Like if you look at percentages, numbers, you have 100%, you have this cup, and half of it's supposed to be, what's the 2 drinks that you mix together that taste good?
Shoot.
Let's say iced tea and lemonade.
There we go.
Let's say the perfect
Arnold
ratio
Palmer.
of iced tea lemonade, like an Arnold Palmer, is 50% lemonade, 50% iced tea, right? But I need to drink a full glass, independent. So it doesn't matter if at one point the lemonade's at 25%. That means that all that means is it doesn't mean that I have to. Hope this analogy makes sense. If the glass still has to be full, and the love is at 25% or the respect's at 25%, that means the other part has to carry that weight.
Right.
For however long it must be. For example, like, shoot, if your significant other is in a position where they can't love or they need therapy or they need this, that just means you have to step it up until they can.
Right.
Because it's not always going to be 50-50.
Yeah.
These last 2 weeks, I've been cleaning the house almost all on my own because I've been able to.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm always going to do it. But I could have easily said, oh, I clean the house all the time. But no, my wife found another area to work on, and she's working on that while she can. The same way, it's like give and take, you know? Because I won't always be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or like, for example, God forbid, I'm not able to provide, right? As you know, and I feel as a man, I have to, right? It's just that ego and the biblical reference, like I have to provide. Right. But like, I would love that my wife has a position and job to able step in, you know, to be able to step in and to take care of that. I use Jericho a lot. It's one of my favorite. The passage of like the people of Israel is really big on me, like Old Testament wise. But they get to Jericho. They have 7 days of walking around this structure, the fortress. And when I went to Israel, you get to, it's still there. So I was in Israel, you get to still see where they fell. That's so cool. It's super dope. Israel's an amazing trip. And one of the things that always hits to me is they didn't know. So like, for example, you're a soldier, right? You're married, 2 years married. So it's like your same situation. Yeah. And you're going to battle. And this is like, you know, beginning of the battles and the fights of the people of Israel. And you leave your tent with your wife, you kiss your babies, blah, blah, blah. You go to war. And all they do is play trumpets and walk around the wall. You go back home and your wife's like, oh, how was the day? We walked around, played some trumpets. I'm not sure what's going on, but we'll wait. You know, they know, God knows, we got it. We'll go back tomorrow. Day 6, you still don't know what's happening. You still don't know that day 7 is your salvation. The entire army didn't know that. So that's like where I look at it is like, I don't know when breakthrough is coming, right? But I have to keep pushing forward. That goes with marriage. Like, I don't know when my extra stuff that I'm doing is going to fix, you know, things are going to balance out again, but they will. Right. And I think that's tough sometimes for wives, especially too. Like if in the beginning of our marriage, I worked a lot, like 80 hours a week, it must be tough. It was tough for my wife. Right. So if she wasn't, you know, a wise woman that she was, she could have gave up in a sense and said, I'm not going to be dedicated or loving. Right. Or she could give me all the love she could. And the moments we did have together, because that would balance it out until the point where I can now have time at home more than she probably wants nowadays, because I'm home all the time because I'm working from home. And now we don't have to overcompensate. Now we're at a good level, right? Yeah. And I think that's the battle. And that's the same thing goes for, you know, everything in life. You don't know when your media company is going to break through and hit $1 million or that big client. But if you don't do the little day by day, you could be one day away from your goal. It's like prayer. It's all these things people give up because they don't see the change. And they're like, man, I've been praying for so long for this. I've been working so long for this. But you don't know you were just one day away from achieving it. You know, it's just that one more day, one more push. That's what I love about hustle is like, not the hustle where like I'm killing myself for doing that, but learning from marriage, learning from my experiences and learning from Christianity and theology is there's always one more day and I just have to keep on doing it. I'm not going to let my circumstances affect that. I'm not going to expect anything in return, and I'm not going to expect people to treat me a certain way. I'm going to keep on being true to myself, being true to my beliefs, what I was raised on, and I'm going to be true to my craft. And eventually, day 7 will come. That could be in 1 year, that could be in 2 years, that could be in 10 years. Bezos was flipping burgers at age older than us. Yeah, I think it was 26. He was working at McDonald's. People laughed at him when he said, "I'm going to sell books for my." He said, "I remember this guy gave an interview. I forget who it was, but he said." Bezos came to him and said, hey, can you invest in my company? He was still working at McDonald's at this time. I started it in my garage. It's called Amazon, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to sell books, and I'm going to become the world's richest man. I'm going to hit $100 billion. That's him way back then already saying that. And I say that all the time. Like, I have nothing against money, by the way. Like, as much as I'm not super materialistic, I would love to be a billionaire.
Right.
Nothing against, like, God wants to give me that, I'll be fine with $1 million. But if he wants to give me a bill, I'm fine with that too. Like, I'm satisfied. But that mentality is dope because people are like, man, I'm 25, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm 30, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm like, bro, do you know how many entrepreneurs and influencers and these people around the world that hit it at much different ages? It's not a race. It's a marathon. Yeah. And we're all at different stages. The same thing when you were talking about criticizing people. I can't criticize someone who doesn't know something when I might have been in the same position 5 years ago. And if they're especially if they're younger than me, or they're just a different part of their journey. You know, they haven't gotten married yet. I think marriage adds tons of years. If someone's not married yet and they're acting a fool, I'm like, man, you should know better. I'm gonna help you, but I'm also like, man, you're not married, you don't know. Like, people are like, oh man, I don't know how you could be with one woman. I'm like your whole life, and I'm like, I'm okay.
Just don't know
because like I love it. Like, you know, like I don't know what it's like to be dating around and doing. And like, I've never lived with another woman. I've lived with my wife my entire life. Like, that's the only woman I live with, and that's who I choose to be with. But like, you don't know. That's why you just know what you're living. And I think that all ties back to, like, if to tie it with a knot is we have to have these conversations to know those things, right? And to keep that mentality open and just keep positive, keep on trucking through, keep fishing. All these sayings, you just keep on going, and eventually something's gonna happen.
That's huge. I love the reference of Jericho because that's something people need to hear, man. Like, especially in our lane, because creative, you know, at one point, being a creative person, you know, there's always been spikes of where it's the best option, right? Like, you can say when YouTube first started, if you were a YouTube, like a video person or a personality, that was a great place to be. Like, it can feel nowadays like, because it's true, a lot of the platforms that we're on, it is harder to reach that pinnacle or reach that seventh day. But I think, like you said, you just kind of got to have faith. You got to believe in yourself, and you got to just go with the flow and just trust that one day it'll hit. Like, when I put those posts that, you know, with the same font and stuff, it's because I know that, like, eventually 100 episodes in, 200, 300, 400, maybe 50, who knows? But like, eventually, as long as I'm true to myself and like to that branding guide or whatever, people are going to be able to come back and see everything else, and like they'll have a place to land. And so I think that was great. Thank you for bringing that up.
But, 100%, man.
You also, and this is, I'm excited.
I will say that. So I'll verbally spit so much stuff out. I'll do a blurb, and then I'm like, all right, let me give it back a chance, because I'm like, I spoke probably for like way too long. Let me give it back.
No, I love it. I love it.
I'm a ball hog when it comes to talking.
Good. I mean, the show, you know, which is, well, let me use this to segue. You said earlier, before we even started rolling, you had a little, like, we talked a little bit about hustle culture in general. And I want to go into that because, you know, I think at first glance at the title and stuff, it can be a little misleading. So, you know, hustle culture, the reason I started this podcast, the concept, the creation of it was that, you know, we're both Gary V guys, you know what I mean? But I always loved his message, but also empathize with the people who are against it in a way. So people like, I'm gonna call him out, Gavin, the brother-in-law I talked about earlier, like, he despises Gary Vee because he feels like he says these blanket statements of how you should do this or do that with no context
on how to accomplish it,
on how to do it, or why, or, you know, how, or to narrow his demographic, because some people follow him, and it's like, you know, his whole thing is like, you can't say screw your parents' opinion, you know, because, you know, I love my parents, and like, why would you say that? And like, so what I kind of did this show for was kind of, I believe in the hustle culture. I believe that grinding, you do have to, there is a level of hard work. Those 80 hours a week got you to the point where you can work from home and you can be closer. You know what I mean? I feel like that is an important aspect of life. And there's seasons of it, and there's seasons where you don't, and all that. But so I wanted to, the whole point of this is just to kind of rebrand and redefine hustle culture. Like, because it's a negative thing right now, and I just think that it's not supposed to be, you know? No. And so I wanted to hear your take, because I've asked most of, you know, if it comes up, I've asked most of my guests, like, what do you think about the work ethic and the balance? You know, like, what's your take on it? Because to start it off, for me, when I was 18, if you asked me this question, I was like, I could have gotten Gary Vee's face tattooed on my neck, like as much as I listened to him, because I was like, yes, you gotta work. I was grinding.
Yeah.
It took 2 years for me to realize that after you do that for 2 years, I was depressed, anxious, like.
And he is mentioning it, and he's mentioned like, no, sleep. He's not saying don't sleep. He's saying being efficient, like,
Yeah, and that's what I kept. That would always be my rebuttal to the people who were like, dude, but you didn't go watch the whole clip though. You didn't go.
You took the little piece
that he posted. So that, again, there's like that, right? Because he chose to clip that and stuff. So it's like whatever. But I know what you mean, and yeah, but I don't know. For me, I now, after post seeing the side effects that come with seasons like that, if you don't treat it that way, I think that hustling, life is a rhythm. In my opinion, the way I think of life, it's like, you're constantly going at one beat, and sometimes you can add little things to like make it better. You know what I mean? You can add a hi-hat. You can add that.
You're a drummer?
I did a little bit. I like music, but you can add a hi-hat, you can add a snare, you can add toms, you can add this. But it's really all just to make life more interesting or not. But whenever you do too much of the hi-hat and you do, you're rushing the 16th notes, it might not sound the same, and it might sound bad, and it might mess up the song. And so I think that adding things into your life, as long as it makes sense and like you're still happy, and again, it just leads to joy. Why not? So I that's how I look at hustling. And it's like, again, I think it's, again, nature nurture thing. Like, I feel like I'm designed I have a hustle gene, if you want to say. Like, I'm cool with staying up till 2 a.m. Like, I have fun. I enjoy it. I love sipping on a coffee at 5 a.m. like waking up early and doing it. Like, so that's just me. But I also understand, and I'm empathetic to those who don't believe that way. And again, everything always just goes down to the fact that like we can all have conversation about this, and like, I'm not for this or for that. But what's your take on hustle in general, and like, how do you lead your life when it comes to work-life balance? Because I know you do a lot, and you have a lot of personal things that you have to also cater to, that you have to balance. So talk about that a little bit.
I think it's a mix, and I like the way that you portrayed it is pretty on par with how I look at it. But I look at it as, for myself, is I have a set of responsibilities that I have to tend to, right? When I was younger and single, different responsibilities. When I lived with my mom, different responsibilities. And then I have to take those as a man, as a woman, as a human, right? Man up is just a phrase, but person up, whatever you want to say it, and woke. Yeah. But like, I don't want people to say I'm not woke, because people are going to cancel me before I even started, like, but like, they up and take ownership of your responsibilities, right? Now, if you want to achieve, I look at it as this. There's two ways of looking at it, right? So if you're cooking rice, you can cook it slow on low heat, or a little bit higher and get the food done quicker. Now, the taste might be different, but it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. Are you looking for fuel in food? Are you looking for taste? So the same way goes for life. Is if I want to achieve bigger dreams within my company, for example, for your company, best believe you'll achieve your dreams more or quicker if you're looking for a certain number or certain like goal. You achieve them quicker if you're able to work 24 hours a day, if you are able to yourself and others. Now, what are the consequences of those actions? The consequences are sleep deprivation, this, that, and the other. Now, am I advocating for people to do those things? No. Do I believe that there could be a season that you do those things? 100%. Because you want to beat your competition. If you're trying to compete, like the race to Mars, Elon's not taking naps. I worked at Tesla. I saw his hours. He's working 100 hours a week. He worked more than he slept at the factory because he had a certain goal. Now he's a billionaire. He doesn't have to do that.
Right.
And I'm guaranteeing that he doesn't always do that now. But he knew that at that time, for him to achieve his goals that he wanted, it was necessary to do that. So I think the hustle is doing what's necessary. That's what hustle is. Now, if your hustle is working 30 hours a week, that's fine. Hustle can be a kid that's 16 at his house, and he hustles and flips shoes.
Exactly.
Brams, I'm not sure how many hours Brams works. I love him, by the way, and flyest guy out there.
Yeah. Shout out Abraham.
100%. Oh, dude, check his stuff is fire. I still want one of his suits. I want a Peaky Blinders type vibe of suit, but that's a grind and that's a hustle. He's one time we met him at like 10 o'clock at night, and he was fitting us for suits, and I'm like, that's a grind. Now, I'm not sure if his day didn't start until 10 o'clock at night. I'm not sure what his day's like, but it's not the hours you put in, it's what you're getting out of it. That's how I look at it. Like a hustle could be, hey man, I work my normal job and I put 2 hours a day. Once again, I think it all ties back to if you're complaining about it though, don't complain to me. I'm the worst person to complain to. And it's tough because I've pastored and done things in church and it's tough for me sometimes because I'm like, I have to be empathetic. But the difficulty is you chose that life choice. So like, if you came to me like, man, Leo, I can't get off with my TikToks. I can't get off with my my agency. And I'm like, cool, what are you doing for that? Right? If you're doing everything right, then it's more of, instead of complaining, you're like, I think there's a difference between complaining and then asking for advice. Inquiring and trying to learn. Those are two different things. Complaining is just complaining. Like, man, I wish I'm going to be a millionaire.
Life isn't fair. Dude.
Life isn't fair. Like, yeah, life is completely fair. It's unfair to everybody. No one gets an advantage in life. People get certain things. Like, believe me, if I had a rich family, I might be. It depends on my work ethic, depending on how that would have affected me.
Yeah.
But yes, I'd have an easier, cushier life. But I'm not going to complain about that and let that limit me. Now, I'm going to be the $1 million family for my kids, right? And let them do things that I wish I could have done at an earlier age. And I think the hustle is, it's just moving forward. The hustle is, you know what? I want time with my wife. I'm trying to find a job for her so that she always has weekends off with me. That's my hustle. Like, that's what I'm putting extra hours at. On my break at lunch at work, even though I'm working from home, you can ask my wife, I eat lunch at my desk at home while working. Because I want to make sure that I can do it right. I can finish early. It depends on, the verbiage of hustle is like, getting there quicker. That's the goal. Getting there quicker, whatever it is, getting to the goal. And then I think the biggest thing is people don't set their goals. So people think, do you go by the way, do you go by Tags or Andres or Andre? Like I try to, Dre,
a lot
Doctor.
It's weird. Some people call me Dre. Some people call me, the most common one is Tags though.
Tags. That's what I've visualized it saying.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, he doesn't introduce himself all the time as Andres though. So I'm like,
it's
I'm not gonna even pronounce your name, your last name, because no,
that's why Tags is there, because it's way easier.
But like, it's like you people are like, oh, Tags said he was depressed and all these things. So I think no one should work that hard. No, bro, no. Because once again, I'm not against money. It's not my obsession.
Right.
But I have, if you don't know, and viewers don't know, I've gone through my cancer treatments. That requires money.
Wow.
Cancer's not cheap.
Yep.
My wife has needs. I have 2 dogs that need food. I have a cat that needs food. By the way, I need to buy cat food when I go home. Like I have family needs that only are fulfilled through money. And now if my job that I have now pays me $1,000 a week or $1,000 every 2 weeks, and I make $2,000 a month. That's what I'm making right now. But my expenses and my needs are $4,000. Best believe I don't care about sleep because that's lost its importance. I think it's the balance in the hustle is balancing what's needed, and people don't have that hindsight or whatever it is or foresight. Is, dude, I'm not doing this forever. I'm doing this to achieve a goal, and that's what I think the mentality is. I met people that have 3 jobs. They don't have a goal, and so I think that's wrong. You don't have a goal for why you're having 3 jobs. And you're still spending it all. And you're just spending it all. Because you can pointlessly grind. Yeah. You can badly take what Gary Vee says and work more, and you work, and you're doing nothing with it, and you're spending all your money. I think he even touches about that. Like, you can work 100 hours a week, spend none of it, and save it all, and save it all, save it all, save it all, and save it all, and then die because you're malnourished, you don't have insurance, you haven't gone to the doctors in 10 years, you're not treating your body right. And then die, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife, and then all that money goes to the government. Or if your family gets it before the government takes it, right? Yeah. That could be what happens to you. So I think hustle is, in the proper way of doing hustle is, you have a goal, and now you're defining how you're going to achieve that goal. Are you going to do a slow cook? Because that way you can balance your family, and that's your hustle. Or are you going to intensely cook it? A friend of ours, Aloe, he actually works with the company that I work with. He's a creative director there, which is super dope. I didn't know he worked there when I started this job. That's so awesome. It was super cool, the software company. And he's an artist. He does these crazy art pieces. He showed me his freaking crypto, and I don't think he minds, but you could find, it's public knowledge. In NFTs alone that he started a few months ago, he's made over, I think, $400,000 or something like that in NFTs. And he did this stuff like kind of like
everybody, we're gonna start an NFT with that painting. It's gonna be digital.
Bro, like seriously, like, and I'm like, man. And so like I'm talking to him, and I'm hustling. I'm like, bro, I need to get into this.
Yeah.
And we chat about it, and we're like, all right, cool, let's get something going. That's a hustle for me.
Yeah.
At a work event where we're drinking and we're having like a happy hour.
Nice.
My hustle there was, bro, how do I learn how to do that?
Mm.
My hustle is I'm trying to learn Italian. I speak Portuguese and Spanish and English. I speak Spanish because I learned it through school and it's also similar to Portuguese. I'm trying to learn Italian because I'm at home and I value life is short. So I'm like, I want to learn Italian. So when I go to Italy next, whenever that is, in whatever amount of years, I can speak Italian. And I feel more accomplished, right? So I'm doing it in a different way than most people do. I'm not learning all the grammatical stuff. I'm trying to learn, 100 words, then maybe 200 words, learn those words, how to say them, pronounce them and stuff, and then turn that into sentences. It's a different way of learning.
Yeah.
It's this whole, I can talk days about that, but there's a specific way how to learn languages most efficiently. And then later you learn conjugations and all these other things in history. I'm not saying you don't have to learn those things, but to learn language the fastest, that's how you learn it.
That's cool.
You said you're into video games, right?
Yeah.
A bit. Did you play Zelda?
Yes.
Or all these other things?
Breath of the Wild and like the old ones.
So this is how I see it. There's two ways of hustle or living life. And then this is how you can portray it. Or let's say three. There's three ways of playing a game.
Okay.
There's those that play it, don't really get into it, kind of play it off, play it on the side, don't really get into it, and never finish the game. I know people have never finished God of War and tons of games and just never got to the end of it. There are other people that beat the level as fast as possible. And that's their goal is to beat the game as fast as possible. And ultimately, in a way, that's right. Like, I'm not saying that's the best way to play, but in their mind is they want to beat the game.
Yeah.
They don't care about the little mini adventures in Zelda. They don't care about getting all the crystals. I forget what they were called, but
shrines.
The shrines and stuff. They don't care about all that. They care about achieving the end goal of winning the game and finishing and having the little sequence and the little movie sequence at the end. That is their goal. Or the others is in their mind is you haven't finished the game until you've unlocked every single character, you've gone every single part, you've gone to every single shrine. That's how they see finishing a game.
Yeah.
And I think there's beauty in both. There are those that will love just finishing the game. And there are certain games, I'm not going to lie, I don't want to do every single freaking mini adventure. I don't care about every skin.
Right.
That's not my bravado. I just want to play the game and finish it. But there are other ones that I want to go through that. And I think that's how life is. There are moments in my life where my goal right now is to get married. So like for like a young single person there, or your friend who got engaged. Yeah. If his goal is to get married, right now, I'd be as alone as possible as I could. Take that alone time as much as you can. Yeah. And then either enjoy your alone time because you're not married and you don't have someone with you. Right. Or work so you have extra money because marriage is expensive. As much as there are some benefits of being married, taxes and all stuff like that, going out to dinner is not ever going to be $20. Nope. It's
40 now.
It's $40, $50, $100. Like that's a normal night. And so keep that in mind. Work as hard as you can because then when you're married, you don't want to work as hard as you can. And that's the mentality is you have to have a long vision and then the short vision being like, hey, this is for a month. Right when I got the cancer stuff, I needed money. Like I'm freaking out. I'm like, by the way, I'm fine. I have hair, guys. So I'm not like doing chemo and stuff. I'm just doing some treatments and stuff. But when I found out I had cancer, yes, it scared me. But like one of the first things I was like, all right, I have to find a job that pays well. So I worked at Amazon. For people that don't know, a lot of people don't know, at night to like 4 a.m. Dang. For like not very long, for like a month or two. Right. Because people were doing donations for me and I sold t-shirts and I hustled. I was like, man, how can I get things without just asking people for money? So I made t-shirts and I made these and I still have Cancer Can't Kill Heart is the website and still up there. So if people want to buy anything there and support, please do. Because my goal now is to, now that I'm starting to get in good places, to support other families and other people from that. And that's why I saw like that was a good segue to help other people too that go through it, which I think is dope. Yeah. And I was like, cool. I can't depend on these donations. I can't depend on these things. I can't depend on my wife's job. My job is not paying and what I'm doing and my creative stuff is not paying right now. I have to find what I can do to get there. So I was like, all right, cool. Until I'm there, until I find the thing, I have to get another job. And I found Amazon and I was like, all right, it starts at like 6 or 7 and it goes to 4 a.m, 4 days a week. And I can do overtime too and extra days. And I make $16 or $17 an hour. Dang. And I'm like, okay, that's 40 hours a week. And it's paid weekly. It's like $700 a month, $700 a week. And I'm like, it's not what I want, not the hours that I want. And it's obviously not the job that I'm in right now. I'm not working it, but it will be a temporary thing that will most likely help me a ton. And then I can leave it in a month or a few weeks or whatever it is. And I thought about it. Like I even talked to my wife about it. I was like, hey babe, do you think I could sustain doing both? And she goes, no, you can't. Like between treatment, between trying to get treated, trying to do your regular job, doing like excluding passions of creativity, just like working 2 jobs / 3 jobs plus doing things in day to day, even the extra money sounds enticing, you won't be able to sustain it. So do it now until you get those other ones, so we have something in the meantime.
Right.
And that's what we talked about, and I did. And some people are like, oh man, I would never do that. And I'm like, bro, best believe if you're hungry, tell me
That's
not.
such a naive mindset.
It's such a naive mindset because it's like, if you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
Tell me that the worst food that you never liked. Like, is there a restaurant you don't like going to?
Applebee's.
Applebee's.
Hate Applebee's.
I don't like Applebee's either. I don't like Denny's. Denny's is one I don't like either.
Denny's is the same level of Applebee's.
Like Applebee's and Denny's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to all the people that love them. I don't like them.
Wait, real quick. I went to Denny's. I remember my dad like 3 times in a row. Every time there was like lipstick on my coffee.
Oh yeah,
cup.
that's crazy stuff, man. I
so
imagine
bad.
go to Denny's and getting a cigarette on your eggs. I imagine that. Like that's what I imagine at Denny's. Like that's what I.
Yep.
That doesn't surprise me. Now, let's use Denny's because we both said that experience. Yeah. Imagine that lipstick on the cup. Imagine like you saw some ashes in your It's gross, but you haven't eaten. Not even in like I could say a day or two. Like not even a week. Let's say a day or two.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Bro, I'm gonna eat that thing up. I might try to clean it up a little, but I'm gonna slurp that thing up. I might eat the lipstick.
Probably
just
not
with,
even
like,
notice.
sugar.
You probably won't even notice.
I won't even
that.
notice it. It's like food tastes better, and I'll eat anything when you're
Yeah.
hungry, right? And so I think that's the hunger. Hustle is hunger. It's if you're hungry for something and that's your goal, great. My buddy who's an accountant, his hustle right now is that he's trying to flip Jeeps. He's had 4 Jeeps. His Jeep Grand Cherokee gave to his parents, which is super dope.
Nice.
And he has a 1973, I think, Jeep Commando, which is a super dope old car, a Scrambler, which is an old car, and a Wrangler. He has these dope old cars, and he's an accountant and hustling right now, working on them. He posts on TikTok, got like 40,000 views on one of his videos because they're dope. They're cool cars. Learned everything about it. I remember he started college, bought this car for like $3,000, started working on it, learning on it. I had the same Jeep. We were Jeep twinning at one point. And he just started going. He has this whole thing, and he just buys tools when he needs them. He's welding. He's replacing the entire bottom of his car, and that's his hustle. And he said, "Hey man, I turned my hobby into like a side thing and a hustle, whichever way you want to verb it. Yeah. And now he's gonna flip these cars for like a car he bought for $3,000 for $20,000,
Dang.
$25,000, $30,000, and there are people that are buying that. And I'm like, that is a hustle. Right. And people might not see it as a hustle because it's just as fun. He likes to enjoy doing it, or freaking artists, but they turned what they loved into a work thing. Like I think Akon or one of these rappers, they work 9 to 5.
Yeah. Oh,
they work 9 to 5.
Really?
One of these rappers, Akon or someone like that. It might be not Future, but some of them. I remember them mentioning in an interview that they went to the studio because they typically work at night. And he was like, it's 5 o'clock. He's like, all right, man, peace out. Because that's what he wants to do. But it's still a hustle, bro. Like to create what he's creating daily. He works Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, because that's what he enjoys. And he wants his weekends off with his family and kids. And he's still an artist, and that's his hustle. But other people's hustles is like Jay-Z or freaking Justin Timberlake 2020, where they did a song every single day for 20 days. Like there are different levels of it, and I respect all of them.
Yeah.
The simplest thing is there is a goal. How you want to get to that goal is your choice, but there are a few options, and that's hustle. The people that don't hustle are the ones that stop the game and say, I'm done with it. It's too hard. Oh, this is too complicated. Those are not the hustlers. And there are plenty of people like that. And there are plenty of people who hustle in different ways and try to say one way is the right way, one's not. But they're both the right way, man. Right. Being a single mom, is hustle. Even if you're working, freaking doing anything. My mom cleaned houses for most of my life. She hustled. Like that's a grind. Yeah. But even if you're rich, like if your parents are rich, it's a hustle. How'd they get there? What do they do? What do they manage? What comes into their mind and stress? Like the stress level at that level versus like a poor level, she has to worry about $1,000. You have to worry about $1 million going away. There's different hustles and grinds, and I respect all of them. The idea is you have a goal, you have a starting point. Wherever you are, doesn't matter to me. It's just how you're getting to your goal.
That's real.
Hopefully I didn't overcomplicate it, but like and that verbal like vomit there. But yeah, that's how I forget who I saw. I remember someone mentioning like the Zelda thing, but like that's how I see it, you know?
The Zelda thing is so real. See, I was the one who wanted to do every little thing. Not because I felt like I needed to do it, but just because I felt like it would probably enhance my experience.
Exactly.
And I think, I feel like there's 2 ways people look at life. It's like, one, the goal is to like be successful and like be rich and like,
success is money. Nowadays, mostly success is money. That's for a lot of people.
To be successful or to be like to experience the most.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and you know, I'm growing, and my take, hopefully this thing lasts. Like, I want to be able to do this podcast till I'm like Joe Rogan level.
Yeah.
Like, till I'm 60 and I'm still doing it. And like, so, you know, by the time I'm 30, this might change. But it's funny because if you would have asked me again when I was 18, it was like, oh yeah, the whole point of life is to make the most money you can. And again, it's weird because I come from a church background. So like, it's not because I felt like I needed money, but because I felt like, obviously, that's the accomplishment, right?
And it's a heavy thing. I mean,
the
bro,
achievement.
it's a hard thing. Like, money is no joke. 70% of like the country or more lives paycheck to paycheck. Like, most arguments in marriages are because of money. Like, if money was no issue right now, I'd be doing a lot of different things with my life.
That's
like,
100%.
I wouldn't care that I bought this at Walmart.
At
that point, money doesn't matter. Then I would buy something at Louis Vuitton. You know, I'd buy something at like a dress shirt from these places, you know, because money doesn't matter, right? But I had the same perspective. I wanted money. That's what my goal was, money, because that was what I saw. But now I see it as like, it's a mix. I'm not against playing the little mini games or going off, like comparing to that, like same analogies. I'm not against it. But there are certain things I don't need to do. Exactly. And I'm okay with that. I don't have to take every trip, but I like taking trips. And my wife likes taking trips. So I'll take one. And like, when people are like, I haven't took a vacation in 10 years. Congratulations. Don't look down upon me because I want to take a vacation. Like, bro, my job pays my job has PTO. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I wanted to take a vacation because I don't want to burn out. That's how I work. It's the same example as this is a weird question, but how long do you sleep, do you think? Like, how many hours do you think typically?
Recently, I've been sleeping a lot.
Like 8 hours? 9 hours?
Probably.
I'm a 5-hour sleeper.
Like consistently?
5 hours is pretty much 6 hours is maybe too much. Damn. Like, I don't sleep a lot. I'll probably go to sleep at like, I'll wake up either because my cat is bothering me to feed him or something like that, or I just wake up naturally around 5 or 6 every morning, 4 maybe, guaranteed. No questions asked. It's always, I could go to bed at 1, I'll wake up at 5-ish, 6-ish every single time. I don't sleep a lot. I don't enjoy sleep. For me, a lot of my life, I thought sleep was a waste. I get the point of it. But it's one of the things that I want to talk to God. I'm like, man, there couldn't be like a faster, quick charge. Like, I could quick charge my phone and can't quick charge myself, you know? But the way I look at it is, people are like, oh, but you need 8 hours. I'm like, no, you don't know my body type. Like, the same way, like, everyone has different food intakes, and what works for one guy doesn't work for me, and what workouts work for one guy. We have different body types. Like, I'm not a heavyweight. I'm probably a featherweight. Like, there's different sides. So look at it as like sleep. I don't critique anyone who sleeps more than I do. The same way I don't critique if you can work longer hours than I. It's not that I don't want it the same way as you. Is I know myself, I can't do it. If I work 10 hours a day, or not 10 hours. 10 hours is pretty normal for me because I like the 10. I like doing 4 days a week, 10-hour days each. It's my favorite type of work schedule. But for example, people who work like 80 hours a week, and they're like, look down upon other people. I'm like, bruh, I've done that. It's not like I can't do it. It's that I chose not to do it for a purpose. Respect that. But if I came complaining to you like, oh man, I'm not making enough money, then you tell me, get an extra job. That's what I think the gateway is. Are you satisfied or not? Being satisfied in terms of not being like stagnant and stopping, because there's a lot of people that just plateau and don't move and don't grow. But the difference is being satisfied where you're at. Like, I'm happy where I'm at, knowing that I'm still going to grow and wanting to grow. Like, I want to be better. I want to get more money. I want to have a better house. I want to do these things. Yeah. But I'm fully happy with my house. I love my old house. Like, I love that I found an old house in Texas, which is everything is newer. I love having where I am with my relationship. I want more things. I want children in the future. I want things, but I'm happy right now. And I think people are always looking either to the past or to the future. So they're always reminiscing and like, oh my gosh, I was so much skinnier back then. I looked so much better back then. And then they're always talking about, oh, I used to do this. Man, when I had an ad agency, we were doing $1 million in sales. And I was like, where are you now though? Where's your present, right? Why aren't you like rooted now? And then the flip side is also people are like, man, in the future, I'm going to do this. In the future, I'm going to do this. But you're not living your now. You're living for your future, but you're not getting there, right? Your future's tomorrow, you know? And I think the best thing is that balance, like we said, is like, all right, plan for the future, learn from your past, and work on your present. Enjoy the present. I'm happy where I'm at. If I were to die today, I'm happy. Now, I don't want to die today. Right. And I want to make sure that I'm set for a different pace in the future because I want a bigger house. I want different things. Yeah. But my happiness is not rooted in that. Right. If that makes sense.
That's real. And that's the key. it's where's your happiness rooted at?
Yeah.
What's bringing you joy? And like, shoot, if you enjoy chasing that, you know, I hate the word chase because it's like a negative.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy wanting to get something bigger or wanting
Mm-hmm.
to do this, like, freaking go for it. And I think I love that we went down this road because I love mindset and I love, you know, thinking about thinking. But I really do think that if you're listening to this today, and it looks like my camera's about to run out of SD storage.
We got this.
Which is fun. But
hey, we're at a good point.
yeah. I just think that you should just be happy with what you're doing, and if you're enjoying what you're doing, don't compare to like what other people are doing. Just wait for that 7th day, that breakthrough. It's gonna come. It's gonna happen. Keep hustling. Keep grinding. However it is you hustle. You know what I mean? Like if it's 80 hours a week, if it's 30 hours a week because you have a day job, like it doesn't. Nothing is a fixated thing, and it's so, again, social media. It's so easy to just pick a side and stay in that side and just
well, the algorithm will keep you on that. That's the one thing, because then I know for a fact, because and it's great, but like you'll see things that you like, so it's difficult for you to expose yourself to things that you don't, or outside of your comfort zone. So then it's like, if I like people that think one way, and I like those videos and I watch those things, especially on TikTok, it's amazing. Because I went on TikTok, I hated seeing the little teenage girls dancing, so I started going on it more because I never used it because of that. But then when I finally, they were like, use it, and then it will start to show you things that you like. So I don't see those things ever again. Yeah. Because now I just like the things I like. Yeah. So I get a lot of like things that I like, enjoy, like theories and stuff, and it's perfect. But if I wanted to see something different in an opposing side, I have to go search for it. I think we all have to have that. This is when you're a kid. You don't know if you don't like a food unless you taste it. So go out and try things. Go out and experience life. I think the one thing that we should do and be more open is experiencing and listening to others and other opinions. I didn't know I liked cantaloupe until I tried it. I didn't know I liked certain vegetables until my wife forced me to eat it. And I was like, you know what? Broccoli's pretty busted. I'm not going to lie. Like little broccoli and cheese. I'm like, I like that. I get what you're talking about. Like I hated it for years, these little green trees, and now I like it. Okay, cool. I got you. Asparagus, I'm down. Like I'm down. Like you hate all that stuff.
Roasted asparagus is so bomb.
I hated those things. And now I like them. And it's because at one point I was like, man, let me try this thing out. Yep. And I think that's the same thing with social media, with a lot of things. Step out of your comfort zone. Shoot, make another account. I don't know. Do something to be exposed to opposing views, opposing opinions, and learn from them. You might learn to change your mindset, or you might be like, dang, now I even doubled down on my agreement. It's only beneficial for you to be exposed to more things.
That's beautiful. Well, I encourage you to take that advice, go and try things out. Make a new Instagram if you have to. Go, like, literally go to another city. Do, even if it's, oh my God, I got caught up in this travel trap that I need to go to another country. I need to go to another state. Like, you can literally go to, if you live in Dallas, go to Austin for a week. And you're going to feel something way different.
Yeah, go to a different neighborhood where it's most Latins. If you're like a very American, go to a Latin neighborhood. Ask your Latin friends, like, hey man, can I go to a Mexican barbecue or like a Latino barbecue? You're going to experience different culture. Like
just
that.
Experience is 100%. The key. That's the currency. You know what I mean? Like the more you can learn and grow, the more you'll learn and grow as a person. Well, it's crazy, right? But
yeah, crazy concept.
Well, Leo, before you leave, I want you to plug everything that you have going. Like, talk a little bit more about the cancer T-shirts. I know about that. Where they can get it, and just you in general. Everything, like, you let them know. I'm
gonna look right in the camera this time. Yeah. Is this camera rolling? Is that one? Which one?
This one. That one won't be in
a couple minutes. Your camera one on me, please.
There we go.
So go ahead and follow me. I'm at St. Leonardo. If you like cool content, I'm down to show you. And if you want to support me, go ahead and hit my links. I got Cancer Can't Kill Heart. Started for myself, and now the goal moving forward is to support other families and other people that are struggling and dealing with cancer, because it's a real thing. I myself am very grateful that I have my hair. I have pretty good health, and it's a lower end side of it. But I know that there are families like that have struggled through it. So I want to help any way I can. So Cancer Can't Kill Heart on all social platforms. The website is cancercan'tkillheart.com. My socials are Saint Leonardo, very easy. My name is Leonardo Saint. And I hope
fire name, by the way,
influence and get some collabs, maybe going with some Tags Media and get some stuff going, some down. Trinity. And I'm down for anything, man.
Let's do it. Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of Hustle Culture. Go ahead and subscribe, like it, share it. And yeah, I'll see you
Tweet
next
it.
time.
Are you on Twitter?
You know, I say that I'm on Twitter.
So tweet it,
I
share
never
it,
use
post
it,
it, smash the like button.
Smash the like button.
Oh yeah,
That was
actually,
a
that's for
good
YouTube.
one. Let them know.
Go ahead
please.
and smash that like button. Like physically smash your phone, and the subscribe button. I want you to detonate it, like blow it up. Just.
And if your phone cracks, that means you've done it well.
Oh wait, I even forgot to mention. I also have one too. Saint Talks. I
Oh,
totally forgot.
please.
Even have,
I
have
totally
a
forgot
podcast.
too. Listen to his podcast.
Saint Talks as well. If you just go to my page, you'll see
all
my
of it.
stuff. I forget what I do. Once again, like you do a little bit of everything, but I also have a podcast that we'll be picking up soon. I'll probably have you as my first guest when I come back on, since we're in the same area. We do that.
I'm down.
All right, man.
All right, bro. Y'all have a good one. Hustle
Peace.
culture. Let's get it.